Let's see. There we go. Now YouTube should be working. I don't know why YouTube was being weird, so YouTube's going to be coming a little bit late to the party here, but it is what it is. That's why we simulcast. Alright, YouTube was being a little weird. Alright, anyway. What's up, Vampire? Sup, RLD? Like, based on your experience. Well, based on my experience, the best thing you can really do in terms of controlling access, you could do Office 365, share the document out, and have it expire the link, but that doesn't stop anybody from potentially, exfiltrating that data. If you're talking... Yeah, it's really tricky there, because Microsoft was not really designed around secure document transmission in that way. It was designed around maybe data classification, not so much like a burn after reading kind of thing of self-destruction. Yeah. It's a tough one. Because I haven't really had to do that. More of in business, it's a data classification, limiting access to different documents. Do you use Proton? Yeah, I use Proton. I'm actually even affiliated with them. I do have them in my links in bio. They're pretty solid. I used to run my own private email server, and I moved completely over to them a few years ago. I deal with sensitive docs a lot. Best to just encrypt the file and lock the directory. That's what I'm saying as well. Like use a tool like Veracrypt, make a container, encrypt the container, and then decrypt the container as needed. You can, even send out encrypted containers using it. I would not, do password-protected zip files, because that's... While it technically can cover things for many compliances, it's not really all that secure. R.I.P. Chuck Norris, though. Yeah, I didn't see that coming, but neither did the Grim Reaper. There's a whole generation of people that are not going to get Chuck Norris jokes. Just think about that for a second. But yeah, End of an era. For, definitely for sure. So I don't know if y'all saw, but, I did manage to do a little upgrade to my keyboard. So, I got new keycaps. It doesn't look like much, but System76 did a slight revision to their keyboard, so the base keyboard's the same, but they changed the keycaps, and I actually really like them. Not just in terms of style, they feel a lot better, too. And now the colors actually shine through. Eventually, I'll sit down and maybe customize the colors on this. This is still the default schema, and the only thing I've done to customize it is swap the super and the FN key, I think it was, where the position is, because I liked it a little bit more to the left, but you can modify the positioning completely of wherever the keys are. Yeah, I've really been loving these System76 keyboards. To give you an idea of what the stock keyboard looked like, this is the, I really need to clean off my desk. I've been slowly cleaning up the house. I cleaned up the gym a little bit. This is the launch keyboard. This is the launch heavy. So, this is what style the keys originally came in, which is already pretty nice. This is the new style, so if you buy System76 keyboards, this is the style they come in now, and you can buy the keycaps separately to now upgrade them. Debating if I'm gonna upgrade the keycaps on this one, because there's, like, nothing wrong. It was just, like, this is my main keyboard, and I'm like, I at least want to, give this one a nicer, fresher look. So I did that, clean the keyboard off with some isopropyl alcohol. For those of you that are not aware, this is the System76 keyboard. The only difference between these two really is the numpad. That's it. Otherwise, feature-wise, they are the exact same. They both have the USB hub. So they have a USB 3.2, Gen 2 hub built in. So you put the USB-C in there. There's USB-C over here, and a USB-A over there and there. So you have two USB-Cs, two USB-As. So it's great for convenience because I just plug my devices into the keyboard. Like you can see, there's my YubiKey right there. And then I just plug in flash drives and stuff like that. Fully open source. Like you can even go grab the KeyCAD files if you want and go CNC and go make the PCB for this if you want entirely yourself. It's that open source. QMK firmware. You can use the configurator on Mac, Windows, and Linux, of course. But on Pop! OS, the configurator, I think, is built into the settings menu. And you can reconfigure all the keys. There's 4 function rows. So you can really tweak and customize this. It uses Kale box switches. I have the browns in mine. But you can use any of the box switches that they have. Like, Yitz was also looking at this, and he's looking at getting the Jade switches. But you can put in any other switch. It's hot swappable completely. And they have kits if you want to build it yourself, or you can buy it fully assembled. Not sponsored. Bought this with my own money. Just putting that out there. But it is a good product. There's a reason why I have 2 of them. That keyboard I bought myself. This one, I will say, System76 did send me to build and keep. This one they did send me to build and keep. But that was after I already had this keyboard and I bought it and loved it. So I was already loving the launch heavy keyboard after I paid with it for my own money. And they're like, hey, we'd like to send you a launch keyboard. And I'm like, I already have one, but I would sure love a second one for my setup. And I'm like, can you send me the launch? Because it's a little bit smaller and I can fit it more into this space over here. Like, and yeah, they sent me it and we built it on a stream a while ago. It's been great. I think this keyboard's going on like year and a half, 2 years. System76 is amazing, though I'm more of a Librem guy. The problem with Librem, and I don't hate Librem, because again, I have a Librem laptop. They just don't upgrade their shit. Like, last I checked, unless something's changed, Purism's laptops are still running Intel 10th gen CPUs. And they don't really have, like, mechanical keyboards and all that other stuff. It's to the point, like, when I go to upgrade my Cubes OS laptop eventually, I'm looking more at Nova Custom than I am at getting another Purism laptop. Not because, you know, I have anything against Purism per se, but it's that if I'm gonna go buy a new laptop, I want new hardware. I don't want to buy the same exact old hardware. And to make that clear, I have 2 Purism devices here. This is the Purism Librem Mini, okay? Originally I got it from Start 9, but they used the Purism Librem Mini as their little Start OS server Pure, and this is the 32GB Intel Core i7-10510U. It's got 2TB NVMe in here. It's a nice little device. I still use it here and there for my tinkerings. Does Coreboot run on 12th gen or higher Intels? Yeah, they've got it working on Nova Custom. That's why I'm a little bit peeved at Purism. They're very behind. So yeah, Purism is still there. So Nova Custom is who I was looking at, and I'll show you. They've actually got a Cube certified laptop that has Coreboot. Yeah, Coreboot. So, hold up. They have a phone too? Interesting. I'll have to look at that in a second. So you can go... Yeah. Was it the V54, I think it was? And then I think... hold on. You get Cubes OS, and then firmware. There you go. Core boot. You can even get it with heads. Same thing as like the pure boot with the Librem key. So, yeah, you can totally get Cubes OS. Although, I'd probably install Cubes OS myself. But, yeah. You can totally do that. Although, right now... Geez, look at the memory prices. They've had to shoot up those memory prices. Like this laptop right now, $2,500 for all that, and I haven't even selected the NVMe. So, I can fit 2 NVMe's in there. So, we're talking 1 terabyte. The version I would like, United States QWERTY. I'd also get my own custom key in there with my own file, and then get the keyboard in there. You can also, if I remember, change the boot logo. Yeah. So you can actually have, your own logo for engraving, upload your own boot logo. You can get a palm rest engraving if you want. Yeah. You can customize this quite a bit. That was part of the reason also I liked it. With heads on a newer Intel, that's wild. I thought 12th gen. No, it totally can. It's Purism has been dragging their feet. Yeah, Purism has been dragging their feet. There's nothing against it. And this laptop, the reason why I was looking at it is newer Intel, and I'd like to get a new laptop to actually have 96 gigabytes of memory if possible. Not that I'm running really into issues with 64, but it would be nice to have that headroom. So, yeah. Is running an old Ryzen 5 desktop running Zima OS hosting my Pi-hole overkill? Yeah. It's a little bit overkill. You don't need that much, like literally... You'd be fine running on... I don't know if Risk 5 will run on it, like those Milk 5 boards, but you'd be totally fine running it on a Pi 3D Plus. You really don't need that much for Pi-hole. DNS does not need full gigabit. Like, it's literally just going to the DNS server, resolving a name to an IP address, and that's it. It's doing a simple lookup. Like, it's all UDP connections. So, yeah, you don't need the Ryzen 5 is completely being wasted just sitting there doing Pi-hole. Like, if you don't believe me, spin up HTOP. Just look at your resource usage. You'll see you're basically doing nothing. And then while you're at it, just hammer your network. You're gonna see it's eating more I/O doing regular Linux tasks in the background than Pi-hole probably is doing. You want a 95% wireless mechanical keyboard? I don't know if I want a wireless mechanical keyboard, because the issue that you have with wireless is latency. Chief likes things in black. In more ways than one. What headphones do I use? Well, right now I'm using the Beyerdynamic DT990s. At work, I have the AKG K240s, because they're cheap and expensive ones. And then, how I got the V-Moda M100 somewhere around here is another pair. And then for my earbuds, I use Linsol Timeless AE2s. What GPU do I have? On my main box, I have a 5070 Ti. In my stream box, I have a 5050. In my LLM box, I have a 5060 Ti. And then in my honeypot I will be building soon, which will have an LLM. It'll have a 5060 Ti. I picked up another one. Yeah, we're gonna have a honeypot with an LLM. So yeah, I gotta play musical GPUs because I'm sending out my 1660 Super that I don't want gathering dust to one of my mods who does the clipping and editing, because they're building a new computer, so I wanted to contribute to their build. And I was like, hey, could you use this GPU? I'll send it out to you, and I won't charge you anything for it. So, yeah, this will be installed in the box this week, and then I'll take the 1660 Super out of that box, put this in there, and then that is the server that was going to be the TTS box, but then I decided I'm going to turn it into a honeypot. And then I have my 3070 laying around that I'm going to be putting into a transcoding box until I get a 5050 put in there. So that way I can offload the transcode from this machine to another machine once I get around to high split, because I'm going to be upping the quality. And what I'm basically going to be doing is, the idea is I'm going to send one high quality stream from here on this mainstream PC over to the transcoding server, which will be running Media MTX, and that'll be blasting out 4 different streams to Twitch, Kick, YouTube, and PeerTube at their max settings when I get high split. So like, if because YouTube couldn't support AV1, but Twitch can't quite yet, so it'll be like whatever is optimized to each platform. So but that'll be when I get high split, which means that I'll have like symmetrical bandwidth and about gig uploads and stuff like that. Right now I'm just planning for that. That'll probably happen closer to end of the year with my older hardware, just because I have a Ryzen 3400 laying around. I have the memory laying around for that. I have an NVIDIA 3070 that I can at least throw in there for now until I get a 5050 to do AV1. I can at least prep for it. But yeah. My TikTok is weird. I just saw 2 robots calling each other Clanker. And the internet is healing. No, my keyboards are not wireless. They just have I just unplugged them so I could actually show them. What's the best way to truly get OpenClaw free, and what PC or Mac to use it on? To get OpenClaw truly free, you would need to be running your own LLM server. The thing that a lot of people are overlooking is, well, one, the amount of security issues with OpenClaw. I would not be running that thing until I have it isolated in its own VLAN that prevents lateral movement from going onto the other network, so I'd be blocking RFC 1918 traffic, so it won't be able to do east-west movement, outside of being able to talk to my LLM server. And then you would be limited to what the capabilities are of your LLM server. So you would ideally want a decent GPU. Like the 5060 Ti is kind of the minimum I'm recommending a lot of people go at, and that's purely because it has 16 gigabytes of VRAM. That's the limitation of things, and 16 gigabytes is still not all that much. Could you go with a Mac computer? Yes, and I know a lot of people are saying, well, they'll just get the Mac and that's what they recommend. But here's the thing. For the amount of money that you could spend on a Mac, to get reasonable OpenClaw performance, you could invest that money into a relatively inexpensive computer to do the OpenClaw orchestration, then get an NVIDIA DGX Spark or the equivalent boxes there, and get a lot better processing. But of course, you're talking about several $1,000s of investment up front. So it's not truly free. You still have to do some investment. But yeah, so you would need to have Olama or, Olama with quite a few models in there, similar to what I'm doing. And then, of course, ideally, if you set up something like that, you'd want a way to remotely connect into it, which is where I recommend doing Zero Trust Network Access. I'm using TwinGate for my stuff. I'll have a video detailing a lot of that stuff later, but I've basically been able to use my Olama server outside of my house using the Rants app on my iPhone, just like I would be using ChatGPT. But it's running on my own LLM server privately in my own home. But yeah, and so I wouldn't even recommend technically speaking, a Mac per se would be better to run it on, but with the amount of money that you would want to spend on a Mac to even run it decently, you'd be better off spending the money on a relatively inexpensive Linux box to just do the orchestration and then get an NVIDIA DGX Spark to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And it'll be a lot better and more performant that way. It's a lot more setup, but it'll be better in the long term. $20 mad dope controller aesthetically using hollow stick effect sticks. Which one are you talking about? Oh, I don't really use game controllers much, and I'm still waiting for the Valve controller that they're going to be releasing. And I don't know if that controller that you're talking about, the GameSir or that, whatever, works on Linux. Only people that still live in their mother's basement use the word chud. Because people that actually are not terminally online don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is. And I don't feel like spending the time to look up on Urban Dictionary what it is. I am okay with being out of touch with slang today. I'm not gonna be like that dude in the one movie, like, how are you doing, young fellows? I've only tinkered using Windows. Am I cooked? I wouldn't say cooked, but you're limited. In terms of the professional field, here's the reality. If you're going into IT or cybersecurity, I don't care where you're going professionally, even as a developer. If you can only work on Windows, you're effed. You really are in the space. I'm not saying like, oh, you have to work on Linux, but you have to be able to adapt. Like, let me put it this way. My last job, I was on a Windows computer, and then I had to administrate Linux, and I was using Windows Subsystem for Linux for stuff. My current job, I'm using a Mac computer. I could pivot easily. In fact, my Mac computer is right there. The Mac computer's out there. I was like, I knew it's somewhere. It's right there on the couch. And that's where I think a lot of people are shooting themselves in the foot if they want to work in the field of IT or cybersecurity or even software engineering in general, is you need to know how to pivot. You do. Because you're gonna either be building for a Linux server for your software to be hosted on, or you're going to be building software that's going to have to be used by Mac, Windows, and or Linux. You're going to have to be able to adapt to it. You're going to have to learn how to do pipelines between all of them. The main strength that one can have in cybersecurity and IT and software development is flexibility and adaptability. you cannot go around saying, oh, I only stick to this one vendor. Years ago, you could be a stuck-up asshole and say, I only use a Mac computer. And companies would bend over backwards, and they were handing over Macs and saying, we need to get Macs to, get the best developers. Nowadays, the honest truth is they'll tell you straight out, if all you can do is work on a Mac, then you're freaking useless. And if you think that that's just a me opinion, I can give you a couple dozen experts that work in different fields of IT, cyber, and software engineering that'll tell you the same thing. They're all going to have their preferences. Gitz is a full-stack dev of 20 years. He uses Mac and Windows with Windows subsystem for Linux. He pivots between both of them. So is there another way to turn on my mic besides the function key on my laptop? It depends on your laptop. I don't know how it is. It could be hardwired into how your laptop works. Some vendors have really weird function settings. Like with my Pangolin laptop, I have to hit the function key and then one of the numpad keys in order to turn the backlighting on for my laptop. Your thoughts on GPD? They exist. I've never personally used them, so I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I have a Lenovo ThinkPad T14 Gen 2 i5 1245U. Can I install heads on this? I don't know. You would have to look up the support on Core, Tashara Core boot, to see if it can do that, and then can you do heads with it. Heads is not the easiest thing to set up, but I have it set up on my laptop, but that's because Purism had Pure Boot set up with the Librem key out the box, and it's one of the things they support. It doesn't work for some reason, the function key. Oof. RIP. My PC specs is 32 gigabytes of RAM, 2070 Super, and 12 terabyte hard drive and Ryzen 5. Little bit unbalanced there. I mean, I'd probably boost the CPU up. I mean, Ryzen 5's okay. It's just OpenClaw, most freeway, and unit recommend. What do you mean? Is this more affecting the price of devices and different components you use? AI has been affecting more of the prices of the components and everything. Well, the honest truth is we haven't even begun to see what the effects of the current, I presume you're talking about the whole Iranian conflict, that specific part of it. The honest truth is everyone's talking about the prices of barrels of oil and everything. We haven't even begun to see the ripple effects of even the $100 per barrel oil costs yet. That's just the cost of oil that's basically now being shipped, going to the refineries, as my understanding is. So that ripple effect won't be felt in transportation and pump costs for at least, I think it's somewhere between 1 to 3 months. I can't remember the exact timeline, but there's a lag effect there. And the problem is, whenever it comes to things that soar costs and everything like that, like even if you look to COVID and you know, when prices skyrocketed there, things will skyrocket very fast. So you'll have rocket fast increases in prices and then feather light decreases. So everything's fast to shoot up in price, but it will take much longer to decrease in prices. Like we're seeing right now, RAM pricing in DDR5 is just starting to, you know, peter down. It's no longer as crazy as it once was. It's still crazy. But, yeah. So, yeah. Oil has a huge influence on prices of hardware. It depends. It depends on the whole thing. We'll see how this goes. My senior said don't try OpenClaw on your work laptop. It has many security problems. Oh yeah, absolutely. We talked about that in a prior stream. Lorikeet Security. We're not going to go too deep into it. One of my buddies had in one of their blog posts for his company that he runs about all the lovely security issues that are, you know, in there. Hold on. Open Claw. Here we are. So we had this article over here. It's on Lorikeet Security in the blog section. This is from February 24th. You can go look it up. OpenClaw is getting shredded, 5 CVEs, 1,184 malicious skills, and a wake-up call for AI agent security. We went deeply into this in another stream in the past, but yeah, OpenClaw has a lot of issues with it, and that's why I am so hesitant about running it on my own machines. And when I do run it on my own machines, it will be given its own machine on its own isolated VLAN that will be blocking lateral movement, and the accounts that it will have access to will be its own account. So like, I do eventually want to have OpenClaw as an assistant to help maintain my code when I get Olama and everything set up with a proper model and everything, when I get some DJX Sparks and all that. But I'm gonna still set up human in the loop gates in there, so that way it can do pull requests, it can do code maintaining and, you know, all that, but it's still gonna have to do the pull request, do the checks just like any other human contributor would, and I'm gonna have to test things out. It'll just simplify me doing a lot of stuff. But yeah, there is definitely security issues around it, and it's the blind leading the blind. You have a lot of people that are putting a little bit too much faith and a little bit too much trust into AI to have a little bit too much access to everything. That's how you've had the stories of somebody who deleted all of their wife's photos on their Apple computer. That's how you've had the stories of people deleting sensitive company emails and things like that. There are people that literally have OpenClaw giving it blanket access to their emails to book flights for them and all this other stuff. Things I would not really be comfortable with it doing for me. I would be comfortable hitting up OpenClaw as an assistant to say, hey, I'm planning to go, just throwing this out, I'm planning to go on a vacation to the Turks and Caicos. Can you help me find a good flight at the best rates between this window of time? What are some things to do? What are some great resorts? And basically have it build a package for me. And then I actually have to go and, you know, purchase the thing. I'd be fine with that. But I wouldn't have let it pull the trigger for me, if that makes sense. Haven't yayed my Arch in 6 months. Have over 2,000 packages waiting to update. Am I doomed? Yep. Your name is appropriate. So you are definitely about to break your Arch Linux if you have an update. That's the problem with it, is like, you can't let it go too long without updates. Whereas like Debian and Ubuntu and even Fedora to an extent, you can at least do some updates, leave it go for a while and do some updates, and it may not break a lot of things, but, you know, yeah. Coprocessor cards are slept on hard, especially for STEM models. Yeah. Coprocessors are definitely slept on. They have been for a while. Have you seen some WM? I don't think I have. What is the big deal about OpenClaw anyway? What's all this fuss about? All it is just an agentic orchestrator that basically it basically is one agent to control other agents of AI in an open source and simpler format, so you can have it connect to other LLMs all at once. So like Claude, for example, can do a lot of the stuff built into Claude, where Claude Opus, for example, can launch other sub-agents and everything to do all of that stuff for it, but that's stuck to Claude. Claude is not always the best thing. So you can say, hey, for this task, I want you to go to Claude and use their API. But for that task, ChatGPT is a little bit better. We're going to use their API. But then I also have this Ollama server over here. And I have all these models over here. So maybe I want to use New Hermé or Quen or Gemini. Or Gemma. Or yeah, we can connect to Gemini or any combination thereof and control a little bit more of the personality, I guess, for lack of a better term. It gives you more control over it. It's a little bit overhyped, in my opinion. It's useful, but it's a little bit overhyped, and I think people are overlooking the risks. I just figured out how to get Ollama on WSL. I quite literally have no clue what I'm doing. Well, it's not that hard. I mean, if you're really just trying to run those things locally on one machine, I generally wouldn't run Ollama. I would probably steer more people towards LM Studio if you're just running it on one machine. Now, if you're running a server where you're going to have multiple things hit that, API, like I do, where I have Reigns hitting it over my LAN on my iPhone app, and then I have Open Web UI where several people can log in and use it with a ChatGPT-like web UI, then I would recommend Ollama. But if you're just using it for yourself locally, go get LM Studio, run things locally. It'll be easier for you to just switch out models and all that stuff. Brother, I wish I had your knowledge. Well, I once too didn't have my knowledge. But you're not dead until you stop learning. So my advice is, if you want to get to the level of what knowledge I have, keep tinkering, keep building, keep asking why. In fact, you ever wonder why I spell my name the way I do, Chief Geek with a Y in there for Chief Geeked? It's to get you asking why. But seriously, I think that's one thing a lot of people are really forgetting about, and I've noticed this a lot, is with this generation, and I hate to sound like that boomer kind of person, but I'm going to be honest here, on something I've noticed from people that have come to me. I'm not saying everyone's guilty of this, but I'm saying I've noticed a lot of people doing this in many different communities I'm in, where you have a lot of new people in. They expect to be spoon-fed information. And I'm going to tell you this straight up. This is for your benefit. If you expect to be spoon-fed and only have multiple choice questions, multiple choice issues that you're going to be solving for your entire career, IT and cybersecurity and even software engineering is not that. I'm going to be honest with you. This is a field where you're going to be continually learning, continually experimenting, and I know I see this a lot where people are like, can you recommend me a book to learn this stuff? And I have to tell people, there is no book for a lot of the stuff I'm learning. Because a lot of the stuff I'm learning has been too new to be put in a book. A lot of the stuff I'm learning is still edge cases and everything. Like, we're talking about OpenClaw. OpenClaw is still relatively new, that there aren't really books about OpenClaw. And by the time it's in a book, for you to be able to read about it in a book, you're already behind the trend. That's the unfortunate reality. So yeah, I recommend home labbing, tinker, and you don't need to have, all the hardware I do. Raspberry Pis, in many cases, can do more than enough. a little computer with a decent GPU, and by decent I mean like you don't need a 5090. I'm running a 5070 Ti. To a lot of people, that's more a pretty decent GPU or higher end. But I mean, like a 3070 was doing fine for me for a lot of my stuff for a while. I mean, you saw like I'm doing LLM models with a 5060 Ti. For what it is, that's a reasonable, still cost-effective GPU. So you edging all the time for the love of knowledge? That's a interesting way to put it. What's up, Bengali? You just finished work? Hopefully it was a good day. I use Linux, Android, desktop variants, Windows, Mac OS, and work with multiple embedded platforms. Yep. Flexibility is everything. Indeed it is. Especially when it comes to getting older. It also helps in the bedroom. What was the SSH program you recommended earlier? Which program? I mentioned a lot of shit. I talked about like HTOP, which isn't necessarily an SSH program. SSH is just SSH. You can use it in a TTY session. What would a World War III be like? Our world is a lot more connected than World War I and II. It definitely involved a lot more cyber warfare and stuff like that. I don't know what World War III exactly is going to look like, but I can tell you a whole lot of what World War IV is going to look like. We're going to be fighting with sticks and stones in World War IV. Is it a good idea to jump directly on cybersecurity, or should we start with CCNA? I don't know if starting with the CCNA per se, but start with networking. Definitely start with networking. I always tell people before you get deep into, IT and cybersecurity, start with the foundation of networking, because that's the foundation for everything. I don't care if you're in coding or stuff like that. Understanding networking will get you to understand a lot of this field. Got started home labbing recently. Any cool Docker services you recommend? Already running Plex, etc. There's a lot of things that are Dockerized. I mean, I'm running, 20 different Docker services in my little SimSor. You can go look at my GitHub. I Dockerized a lot of my shit. I Dockerized my Grafana to do my dashboards. Grafana's really good to do, observations, have observational stuff and build dashboarding out. I Dockerized Prometheus so I can also track the metrics and data and stats and stuff of different machines for Windows and Linux, and I think you can do it on Mac too. But yeah, there's a lot of things out there. Thoughts on Terafab? I'm not familiar with Terafab. It took me like 2 weeks of looking at docs just to install XDFE and Docker. Docker's an interesting thing. It takes a little while to wrap your head around. By saying that, do you not recommend reading old IT books to get the context? I didn't say that, but I will say that a lot of the old IT books may be out of date from modern knowledge. Although, with that being said, it's very good to understand RFC 1149 and RFC, what is it? Let me see, RFC 2549. Those are very good things to really know in depth for your job. If you don't know what they are, look into them. Thank me later. And I said, thank you. recommendation, absolutely stop using the Proton VPN. Why are people saying to stop using Proton? Is it because people are on that whole thing again where they don't understand that companies have to abide by laws and that email is not the most secure thing? Or the fact that, hey, there is no company out there that is going to stick their ass out there and completely just, get in trouble for you? I think a lot of people have really not understood the idea around VPNs is a little bit oversold. Where, okay, yeah, you're using it maybe for, downloading a torrent here and there. Okay, big deal. But if you're trying to go around threatening Congress people or stuff and you're running afoul of federal law agencies in serious ways, what do you think is going to happen? I'm not saying that I agree with it. I'm just being realistic here. The people who keep bringing up Proton about this tells me how not safe I am with data. Oh yeah, absolutely. Shit, if I am with my data. Oh yeah, absolutely. The problem is a lot of people implicitly put their trust in different companies. Let me put it this way. People will hop on VPNs and absolutely change nothing about their behaviors online. If you hop on a VPN and you do the exact same shit as you were doing without a VPN, you may as well be running backwards naked through a coin field. Because it's about as useful as that. The reality is, and I tell people all this, because people think that VPNs are anonymous. VPNs are not anonymous. They are private. Anonymity and privacy are two completely different things. People conflate the two, but they are different ideas. Security, privacy, anonymity. Three different concepts, often overlapping. Anonymity. The idea that you are not going to be tied to anything with your data out there, that, you're anonymous. You're just basically nothing out there. Like a 4chan user, okay? Privacy is controlling who has access to your data. Security is the act of, well, let's put it this way. If privacy is putting curtains on your windows to keep people from being able to look into your house and see what's inside, security is closing the doors, putting locks on it, putting deadbolts, putting 12-inch nails and striker plates so if someone kicks the door in, they can't actually break the door, putting bars on the windows. You see the difference there? You can be private but not secure. You can also be secure but not private. You can be secure and private. But you need to understand the difference between anonymity and privacy. And if you are giving your payment information to any company, the reality is, if a company is given a lawful order, as has happened with Proton, where they've gone to the Swiss court then comes over to them and says, Proton, hand over this information. They have to turn it over, just the same way as any U.S. company has to abide by a U.S. court. Just the same way as any other company operating in any other country has to abide by the laws of the nation that they are residing in. Just because people are thinking, oh, I am an American and I can go over here and they're not subject to American law, doesn't mean the American government can't go over to that nation, petition for that nation to hand over the data under that nation's laws, as has been in the case in Switzerland. And that's where I think a lot of people have that major disconnect going. And even if, let's put it this way, when people are like, well, I'm going to make my own email server, you know, because I want to get off of Proton and, you know, I don't like that they're doing these things, whatever, that they hand over the data. Cool. That's your own prerogative, but here's what you're going to end up doing. Not only are you going to have to run your own infrastructure and everything like that, you're going to have to make sure you get a static IP address to be able to maintain sending all those emails, and you're not going to be able to do it on a residential IP ISP, because they don't generally allow you sending email on port 25, which is a requirement of email servers, because SMTP spam. You're going to have to get that through a business ISP, which that costs money. You're going to have to get a static IP, which costs more money. And at the end of the day, that static IP is going to be tied to a domain. And guess what? When government wants that information, they're going to still know who directly to go to ask for that information. And then at that point, yeah, you can definitely fight them in a court of law to not hand over the information. But when they say, turn over this information, you can go fight that battle. But I don't think a lot of people have the money to fight that battle. That's the reality a lot of people need to understand. Email is not a very secure communication protocol to begin with. It never really was. And a lot of people, we talked about this on the last stream as well, and I don't care if you're talking about Tudamail, Tudanoda, which is also a great provider too. I'm not hating them at all. I don't care if you're talking about whatever provider, Office 365, whatever. At the end of the day, none of them are inherently end-to-end encrypted in a proper way to actually make a difference, unless you're using PGP encryption, because here's what ends up happening in an email system. All right? Ah, yes, my secret Grand Cayman bank accounts. It's 2026. I still use fax. Exactly. So I'm gonna, you know, pull up draw.io over here. We're gonna make a diagram because unlike some not so great cybersecurity people that use Notepad, you know exactly what I'm going at, we have some better tools to diagram things out. Okay, so let's say this is Bob, okay? Okay, this is Bob over here, okay? If it'll let me, there we go. This is Bob, and we're gonna have Alice over here. Now, Bob wants to send an email to Alice, right? So do you know what happens in an email transaction? I'm going to tell you exactly what happens, and I'm going to simplify this a little bit for you. So let's see. Let's get... Yeah, that'll be good enough. We'll just use a router icon, even though it's not appropriate. We'll use that just to, you know, simplify this, all right? So what ends up happening is Bob sends an email out to Alice. It goes through the gateways, and then it goes to Alice over here. So we're just going to say over here, this is Proton Mail, all right? I'm just going to, you know, spell this out over here. And then over here, we're going to say, this is Gmail, all right? So what ends up happening over here is this is end-to-end encrypted, but not from here to here. It's end-to-end encrypted from here to here. Because what ends up happening is when Bob sends the email, it has to go to the email gateway. So this is the email gateway. So, All right. So this is the email gateway. So what's going to happen over here is this is a TLS connection between the gateways, right? So it's encrypted between these two gateways over here. But ultimately, it gets decrypted at this gateway. So your email provider can read all of your emails, even if it's going through Proton over here, because either way, email sucks as a communication protocol in terms of overall privacy and security. The main promise Proton is giving you is encryption at rest, and the promise to not go through your emails. Now, they do kind of in an automated fashion for reporting for phishing emails. They do that, but that's in an automatic fashion. You can report emails manually to be evaluated as phishing, and they give you the little pop-up that says, hey, this email will be reviewed by a human to be evaluated for phishing, so this won't be private anymore. So they at least do give the disclaimer there. Alice uses Yahoo email account for his recovery email, and Bob. That's a good point as well. So, Bob over here may also have a recovery email account over here. And, let's say server. Yeah, we'll just do that. That's a good point to bring up, too. So, the thing is, we'll just link these up over here. They set up a recovery email. So what ends up happening is all of this email that Bob has is encrypted at rest, that Proton can't access it. But potentially they could read things at the gateway, and that's encrypted immediately as it comes through, once it goes through the initial SPFD, MARC, DKIM, all those initial checks that all email goes through. Yada, yada, yada. But when most people get de-anonymized through, hold on. Yeah, we'll just do that. Payment. When most people get revealed by Proton as to any PII, it's one of the two things that they have in there, that both of which are optional. Because Proton allows you to have free accounts. So, but if you have a paid for account, you have payment information. That information is obviously not fully encrypted at rest in terms of they still need to have, it's encrypted, but not to the point that only you have access to it, because they still gotta bill you. So it's encrypted in their payment systems, but in a way that it's protected from, you know, your average, like anything is, you know, if you were to go to Shopify, things like, okay, be the best example, because not all stores are, but like you go to Amazon. Okay, Amazon's protecting your information, but then they also have your recovery email address in there, which many people optionally set. These are the only two pieces of information Proton directly has access to. Yeah. That's why I hate email. Proton is trying to build modern technology on top of ancient software. Exactly! I think that's how you say your name? Sorry if I said it wrong. But yeah, email inherently is not that secured. Now, there is a way you could fully end-to-end encrypt things, but 99.9% of you do not do this. I'm not hating on you, I'm just stating a realistic fact out there. It's called PGP encryption. This is asymmetric encryption. If you are not familiar with this, I will explain this to you. So basically, there is a public and a private key. So if you have someone's public key, and they have your, if you have someone's public key, you can sign a message to their private key. So if you actually go into, yeah, I can show this. So if you go into my contact links, this is actually the block for my public key. You can take this key, generate your own private key, and provided your public key is shared with me or is publicly available, so like I actually host mine on keys.openpgp.org. I'll show you that. So if you go to keys.openpgp.org, people share their public keys on there. All right? And then from there, you can look up anyone's, by looking up their email address or their key ID or their fingerprint, which is inside the key, what their public address is. Now, if you were to like send me an email, Thunderbird has this built in, by the way. It used to have to use the Enigmail extension, but now it's built in. But anyway, you could do asymmetric encryption that would then fully encrypt the email that, from Alice's point of view, let's say we have a computer. Yeah, we'll just put a laptop over here. Okay, so all right, so PGP encrypted message. All right, so let's say Alice then PGP encrypted a message. If it were PGP encrypted, it would then be sent out the same way back to Bob over here, layered on with all the typical things, TLS with PGP message. All right, but then Bob just sees a blob of text, unless they decrypt it by knowing Alice's public key, and if she signed it, encrypted it and signed it to his public key, he then can take his private key and we'll just take that and go over here, make that a little bit more pretty. I said pretty. God damn it. There, that'll work. So if they were to actually do a PGP encrypted message, at that point, it wouldn't matter that Alice is on Gmail and that Bob is using Proton. Is this draw.io? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But this information at the end of the day would still be revealed. But any PGP signed, any PGP encrypted messages would still be hidden, even if they're revealed in blocks, if they're found in Bob's inbox, so long as the keys are not there alongside it, the private keys of Bob. And they couldn't decrypt it unless they had Bob's private key. You see what I'm saying? This is the only true way to guarantee a truly private and secure message in email that I know of. But 99.9% of people are not doing it and won't do it. And I understand it. It's not built into your average email application. It's built into Mozilla Thunderbird. But even Microsoft Outlook, you'd have to add an extension to it. It's not built into Apple Mail. So this is why I tell people, no, stop believing the BS when people are like, ain't a Proton sort this out. No, Proton is building on top of what is already shitty technology that they can only do so much for. If you want to remain more private and secure, you need to rely more than just on a single vendor. If you're relying on a vendor to be your silver bullet, you're already fucked. That's the honest truth. There is no vendor out there that is going to magically make everything better. I don't care how much you pay any vendor. You go to cybersecurity, I'm going to tell you the same thing. There's a vendor addiction problem in cybersecurity and in IT. They'll go to 50 million vendors and say, well, you know, we don't want to build out our own solution to fix this. We need to go to the vendor to fix this. Now, I will tell you that, yes, there are cases where a vendor may have a better solution, but ultimately, you still have to understand the limitation of where a vendor may be. That's one of the reasons why I left my last job. They had a vendor addiction. They kept buying vendor products, and I kept telling them, hold your horses. The vendors you're going after can't even fix the damn problems that we're having. You're just going after the new shiny, but you're not letting us mature the products that we have, and you're not understanding the limitations of the products you're bringing in. And even then, there's some products out there that can't do everything that you want them to do. And you're going to have to do some customizations and custom code specific to your environment. They didn't want to hear it from me. That's why the VP hated me, I think. What's stopping vendors from doing this stuff properly? The reality is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. That's the reality. It is your job as the cybersecurity professional to understand conceptually where the issues are fundamentally in your respective environment of your company and know how to pivot them properly. Some vendors do better than others, but the problem is there are some vendors that have their heads so far up their fucking ass, they don't ask the customers what they actually want. And that's why a lot of vendors don't fix their shit right. Like, a good example, CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike, great EDR, great XDR. Their cloud sensors suck compared to Wiz. Their Fusion SOAR sucks ass. I had so many issues with it. It is so limited. They're trying to go after every single thing in the pie. They are, picking up and saying, hey, we can't do everything. They just acquired Seraphic, which is a browser security a platform, which I actually did really like, because they had a way better approach than Island Browser, which their solution was, hey, instead of securing Edge and Chrome and Brave and Firefox and all of these, we're going to make you use our own browser. So you're forcing users to move over to your browser entirely to do all their DLP and everything. Whereas Seraphic was like, we're just going to put an extension and have that hook in. They did a good approach. CrowdStrike acquired them. Signal's now working. Signal, not Signal, the messaging app. Signal is an SGNL. .io, I think it is doing API security and things like that. But ultimately, it doesn't matter what vendor products are out there. It is your job as the professional to figure out the limitation of the vendors for your respective environment and the approaches in your company. Because the one shortcoming that a lot of companies have is they want to put their eggs all in one basket. I will tell you firsthand, that doesn't work. The best approach is to look at the best tool for the job for each selection. And it may require mixing and matching different components. What's your opinion on Molvato VPN? It exists. It's another VPN product, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's the same problem as any other VPN product like we were talking about earlier. You may have just come in later, which is that VPNs don't matter if you don't change your behaviors online. I will tell you firsthand, as I said earlier, maybe not on this stream, if you're not going to change your behaviors and do the exact same things in the exact same ways, and all you did was you turned your VPN on, but you're still going on Facebook and connecting to the exact same sites, you're not really adding any privacy whatsoever. And a VPN makes no sense when you're connecting from home, unless you're trying to do like torrents and stuff like that and get around geo-blocked content. That's the reality of things. VPNs are overhyped and oversold, and they're not a silver bullet. I've had a lot of YouTube videos talking about this. Are they a useful technology? Yes. But I think they have been really, really oversold. Do I like Bullvet? Yes, I don't hate on it at all. I have it inside of my Cubes laptop as part of my Poor Man Zero Trust network access, or my Poor Man Zero Trusting solution when I go to DEF CON, where I have a VPN cube set up to have all the traffic go over it. But at the end of the day, you're still trusting somebody else's infrastructure. And if you're trying to use VPNs because you think it's going to make you more private, that comes down to more of a behavioral change than it does about changing how you're accessing the internet. You can barely hear me. My mic is all the way up. TikTok thing. Unless it is... Hold on. Oh, I see. Alright. For some reason, Windows decided it was going to be a smartass and drop down the audio on the stream PC. There we go. It might be a TikTok thing. Honestly, couldn't you see a device if it's on a private network, you can use their network but through a secure tunnel? When you... Hold up. What are you saying? Are you saying you can see a device that's connecting to a secure tunnel? Yeah, you can totally see that. In fact, if I wanted to be a smartass, and many businesses do this, I could block VPN traffic inside my network. There's a lot you can do with networking and everything. Oh, let's see. Kara made a chart. How not to stay anonymous. This is Bob. Bob is a Proton email 808 at proton.email. But Bob used his recovery email, bob@gmail.com. And Bob used his credit card to pay for Proton Plus. Bob is no longer anonymous since now FBI can see his Gmail credit card. FBI goes to credit card company, get list of payments in Google to get all of his Google services, Google Drive, YouTube history, blogs, search history, Gmail emails, and now Bob is going to prison. I mean, it depends on what Bob is doing, but yes. But yeah, pretty much that's how it works. And this is what people need to understand that I've been trying to say for a while. If you're doing stupid things that you know are going to get you illegally in trouble, there is no damn company that is going to stick their neck out for you. Because they're not going to get legally in trouble because you legally got yourself into trouble. It doesn't matter if a company's in Switzerland. It doesn't matter if the company's here in the USA. It doesn't matter where they are in the world. And a lot of people need to pull their heads out of their ass. And a lot of the people that are like, oh my God, Proton sold us out and all that, need to pull their own heads out of their ass and realize that's the way the world works. Proton can offer you encryption at rest. They can offer you more privacy than Google and other services can. And for those of the people that are like, well, Proton sucks, I'm gonna go to Tuda because it's on German soil. You're gonna get the same treatment from the German government. I'm by no means hating on Tuda. They're a great company too. I've been affiliated with them as well. I have nothing but good things to say about them as well. But this is a limitation, not of Tuda, not of Proton, but of email infrastructure as a whole. It's old technology. It's not the best technology. People think they're anonymous when using incognito mode. Yeah, exactly. People have thought, people don't understand incognito mode just means that it's not, you're anonymous local to your computer, but not to Google. They're still tracking and making a profile on you. Can I use Privacy Card Chief to buy the Proton Plus and stay anonymous? Nope. Nope. Any digital payment that you're doing, well, short of cryptocurrency, which we'll get into in a second, it's going to be tied to you. Because what's going to end up happening? Oh, they're going to find out that you use privacy.com or a privacy credit card solution. They're still going to be able to tie it to a credit card. It still goes through a processor. They're still going to be able to subpoena that credit card processor. The only ways you can get around this are paying in cash or paying in cryptocurrency. Monero is the most private cryptocurrency. Be that as it may, Proton doesn't accept Monero. Mullvad does, though. But Proton does accept Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is pseudo-anonymous. A lot of people think Bitcoin is anonymous, but it's pseudo-anonymous. What I mean by that is the Bitcoin ledger is fully transparent. Which is great, because everyone can go and see your transactions are going through, and, you can send, hey, I just sent this transaction through, you can see it's going to be confirming, and all of that stuff, and it's great in that regard. Everyone can vet each other. But if you get enough information with Bitcoin, which is not too hard to do, because a lot of people don't know how to cover the tracks, you can de-anonymize a Bitcoin user. And most people using Bitcoin are not generating new wallet addresses every time they make a new transaction. And then they don't know how you cover up the old cryptocurrency and stuff like that. And in many cases, in most cases, in 99% of cases, it's not worth it to go through tumbling and all of that stuff. Unless you're doing some really shady things. Bought a preloaded Visa in cash, stores of cameras. Yeah, the thing is, these are also the same people that will often, not saying that you're guilty of doing this, but I'm saying, a lot of these people that think along the same lines of, well, I can use a privacy service to anonymize my credit card, are the same people that think, hey, I can buy a burner phone and then pay for the SIM card with a credit card and not put the two and two together. Like Mint Mobile, great service, but you gotta pay with a credit card. So can't get anonymous there. You can go to Walmart, get a track phone, something like that. Run Google Firefox, Google through proxy chain on selected servers. No, I think you're missing the entire point here. Mulvad uses cash payment by mail. This is what I love about it. Wait, so how do you buy it anonymously? You can buy it through Bitcoin. Bitcoin is probably the most anonymous way, but it's not fully anonymous for the reasons that I stated. But in most cases, it doesn't matter. If you're not doing anything stupid, you don't need to jump through these hoops. That's the honest truth. At the end of the day, the majority of people do not need to be concerned about this. Because you have to understand, in order for Proton to be compelled with a lawful order, you have to have done something rather egregious that even the Swiss court is going to look at and say, yeah, we have to hand their information over. And you may bring up some edge cases of, you know, there were people that were activists or something like that. But when I looked into some of these, it's like, some of them, there were things that you could also say, okay, there were edge cases of behavior where it's like, there could be a potential argument there. Not that I necessarily agree with it, but I'm just having to look in it and play devil's advocate. Until something fine becomes illegal. Look, at the end of the day, the best thing to do is, when in doubt, don't do it. I think people have become way too comfortable putting everything online. There's a lot of stuff that I still tell people, hey, I'll tell you when you get here. I'll tell you in person. You can gift a Mulvad gift card through Amazon, then Mulvad converts that. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, the takeaway lesson here is back to the original thing I said many times. The safest way to be on the internet is to unplug yourself and not be on the internet. The safest way and the most private way to communicate with your friends and family is tin cans and string. So, with that being said, be mindful of the information you put out there. Be mindful of how you communicate with people. And for the love of God, stop thinking email is like this great secure thing because you're using a different vendor. I don't care if you're self-hosting your email. It's all shit. It's email. But sometimes you want to learn totally legal things, but looking that up will trigger the big bro. Yeah, well, it is what it is. What a lot of people don't realize is you can also go to public libraries. Hey, look. You can always get the Anarchist Cookbook at the public library. I'm just telling you. Proton opinions. We already talked about it. They're a fine company. Everyone's just overhyping the issues of the fact that when lawful orders are given, Proton has to comply. And referring back to the chart here, you give Proton your payment information when you do the more than free plans, and a lot of people set up their recovery emails. The only way to be completely, anonymous, if you were to do that, when and backing up, there's a difference between security, privacy, and anonymity. And to Kara's little chart over here, how not to stay anonymous. This is Bob. Bob is a Proton email. But Bob uses recovery email at gmail.com and uses credit card to pay for Proton Plus. Bob is no longer anonymous since now FBI can see his Gmail and credit card. FBI goes to credit card company, get a list of payments in Google to get all his Google services, Google Drive, YouTube history, blogs, search history, Gmail, emails, and now Bob is going to prison. I mean, Kara kind of jumped a few steps in there to say why he was going to prison, but yeah. But yeah, I am affiliated with Proton. I still think they're a solid service. I've been using them for years since I decommed my own email service. There's nothing wrong with them once you understand email as a whole sucks. Okay? Doesn't matter what provider, they all suck. Alright, so let's get on to some of the content that we need to review. Where was I at last stream? God, I got so much content to view. Okay. Well, this is a nice one. Okay, cool. I didn't miss much. So privacy experts isn't really private, I guess. Yeah, the issue is, like, there's levels of privacy. And ultimately, if you want to be the most private, get off the internet. That's the advice I have. I'm not saying that to be, like, mean or vindictive, but yeah. Okay, so Apple used to make real servers. So this is the Apple Xserve. So we're probably not going to watch the full video. If you've seen some of my earlier content, you know I love Apple Xserve servers. And these are the one product lines that I think Apple should have never killed off. When Apple killed off the Xserve is when I officially say Apple died as a solid product for a business. But let's see.
This year, Apple teased their secret AC-DC servers. That stands for Apple Chips and Data Centers, but that's just a code name. They're building these things in Texas to run private cloud compute, but chances are you and me will never get to see one, much less run it in to sell their servers. Not just Macs with rack mounts, but actual rack mount servers like this. These things were nice in their own way.
Right.
This is the Xserve G5, and this is the first time I've ever gotten to touch one. I want to see how it runs, whether it still has any use, and
oh, they were beautiful. I loved them. I used to rack those all the time. There was a time when I used to recommend Apple everything and deploy Apple shops entirely, but
most importantly, why they canceled these things.
They should have never canceled them.
For all you vintage Mac nerds, I know there are workgroup servers and rebadged PowerPC servers from before the Xserve, but this video is just about the rack mount servers, not this behemoth. 65 Scribe has about the best video on the internet about that monstrosity. My Xserve was provided by a friend of the channel, and it has dual 2 GHz G5 processors, 3 GB of RAM, and 3 empty hard drive bays. But before I can test it, I have to get it to boot, and right now it doesn't. I think I know why, and it's not just the empty hard drive bay, but I'm gonna need some tools to fix it. That's why I came to Micro Center, where they have every tool I need for this repair. They're sponsoring my Marcintosh videos, and it's a good thing because today I really need some soldering tools. What's cool is they have a huge selection. I'm going to pick up this classic Heiko soldering station to repair the power supply, along with some iFixit tools. Honestly, this aisle is my favorite. You could start a repair shop with all the stuff that they have. Click on the link in the description to see all Micro Center's latest deals, and if you're in Austin, Texas, get ready for a grand opening later this year. Now that I have all the stuff unboxed...
Eventually, I'd like Micro Center to sponsor some of my videos. I mean, Micro Center, I am in your backyard of your original store. Not even a joke. I've actually gone to Micro Center since their original store. Like, I actually know. About the original store that was on Lane Avenue. The one that doesn't exist anymore. Before you moved to the new one. Well, the newer one of your flagship store. Which is the store that I happen to go to way too much. Which I happen to buy the 5060 Ti for the LLM server at. But yeah.
Realizing this iFixit mat is a lot smaller than I imagined based on the picture, so that's not going to work. Though this the magnetic feature is kind of cool. It has this little pencil, or pen, or whatever, and you can draw things on it. So that was a neat idea, but it's I think this is made for like phones, so I'm not going to use that. Luckily, I have this side panel from an old Mac Pro that I can use.
It was easier to another router that it wasn't.
Why do I think it's the power
supply? Wait, what?
Problem? Well, because it was built right in the middle of the capacitor plague, and 99% of the time, bad caps cause these things to fail. So before
there was a bad capacitor issue back in the day.
I need to do a little surgery using the tools I got from Micro Center. And first of all, the House of Moth has this awesome guide for these power supplies. Mine is actually a revision 0, and the revisions that he used on here are 01 and 02. But the process should be pretty much the same. He also has a nice printout here with all the locations of the caps, which hopefully will be identical on here, and all of the cap values, so that I don't have to do that documentation myself, which can be annoying and tedious, but it's a lot easier when you have somebody else do the list for you.
Power supply work is tedious, and I always drain them before I touch them, because y'all ever been electrocuted by a transformer? It ain't fun! It was easy to use another router that isn't from the ISP in the United States. It is easy to use another router. Are you talking about a modem?
Now, if you've never taken apart a power supply, this is the part where you might want to be a little extra careful. I know that this is a newer power supply, so it likely has bleeder resistors that take the power out of these giant capacitors that are under here when it's powered off. But a lot of power supplies don't have that, and you could get a wonderful, nasty surprise if you touch certain contacts on the bottom here.
Yep, I've done that.
Using a multimeter on different points on the board where capacitors are to make sure there's not a voltage there. One other annoyance with some of these things is this white...
How safe is it to disassemble a PC power supply? It's not. It's not. Especially on older ones. Like he was saying, they generally don't have stuff to discharge it, so normally what I would tell people is, when you need to work on a PSU, unplug it. Excuse me, unplug it from the power, put something on to drain the power, and or let it be for at least several days. Because capacitors can only store so much power over time.
This stuff...
Or ISP like AT&T don't let you use another router, but it's not hard to use another router.
Which there can...
No, they let you use another router. AT&T definitely does. Every ISP lets you use your own router. You just at most have to put it into bridge mode. You maybe have to tinker with it. I know this because I've done AT&T modems many times.
Be in servers, but it's really annoying because you got to remove it to get these things out a lot of times. Some of them, like these two capacitors, will probably come out together, but they're also glued to that guy. So I'm going to need to cut that away, or maybe figure out some other ways to get it out of there using knives and little poking and prodding without harming the stuff around them. So that's always fun. And I will need to take off this guy as well. Working on a metal surface is probably not the best idea.
No, it's not!
Enough shock-proof insulation, right?
I would have had that work just straight on your wood.
There's some thermal paste on here, and it has oozed
your wood table. Phrasing.
I'll try to remember to put new thermal paste on here before I put it back together. We'll see if I remember. Look at this. Look at this capacitor.
Good God. Yeah, that is a beefy one.
So at this point, I've marked...
I heard AT&T customer service wouldn't know what to do if you'd use another router as they follow script. It's not about AT&T customer service. You log into the router yourself. You flip a couple switches. It's not that difficult. I've done it before myself. 9 times out of 10, I don't rely on customer service. I call customer service to be like, hey, my line is out of whack. These are my signal levels right now. I'm out of spec. Send a tech because the line's bad. I don't deal with them to deal with anything else on my equipment. Whether it's been AT&T, Breezeline, Spectrum, or any other ISP I've used.
A marker, and some of these are a little bit interesting. They're right in the mix with other stuff. So we're going to see if I can get my desoldering gun in here. This is a Heiko FR301, and Micro Center does sell this. I actually had this, so I didn't get another one at Micro Center because that'd be silly. But this thing heats up the tip very hot, and also has a vacuum pump inside, and will suck the solder.
What router do you recommend that has a better firewall?
But it makes it a lot easier because it does two things at the...
I build a PF-Sense firewall. So if you're looking at just getting a router, go get an off-the-shelf router. If you're looking at getting a firewall, a proper firewall, then you're wanting to build a firewall that has a router built with router functionality. And that would be, like I said, I use PF-Sense, there's OpenSense, there's other things out there. Some people like Firewalla, but I use PF-Sense. A lot of other people like OpenSense. Those are the two most popular ones, but yeah. You're going to be doing a little bit more involved with that. Router and firewall are two different pieces of networking technology that often are on the same piece of hardware. Now, most routers don't necessarily have a true firewall. They're doing network address translation. They may at most just drop packets that are not being routed through, but they're not really a firewall in the sense like a whitelist, blacklist, or IDS, IPS. Have you heard on 8311 group? I haven't heard about that.
At the same time,
What's up, Prisms?
And pulls the solder out. So we'll see how far we get along with this. Since this is a newer board, I'm hoping that this will just work without any extra steps, but I might need to flow fresh solder in some of the joints. We'll see. Well, getting all these caps out was a little bit of an adventure. Some of the pads are in areas that have either a lot of little SMD components, which makes it kind of annoying to get this guy in there. So I kind of had to wick out some solder and then actually put in some extra solder and then suck it all out with this. One interesting thing that I found with this is if you have an area of the board that takes a lot of heat, like with one of these giant copper planes for a trace, you actually kind of need to leave it on there for a little bit extra to make sure it melts all the way down through the component and then suck it out. If you don't do that, you'll leave some solder in there, or the other end of the component will get stuck and then you end up ripping out.
I'm not an old lady who thinks her monitor is her computer.
So, anyway, at this point I need to put the new capacitors in. And
this is the power supply for an Apple Xserve. He's putting some new caps on it because this is back in the day when we were plagued with poor quality capacitors. What's the best Linux for gaming but wanting to leave Windows? I have a YouTube video that goes deeply into that. It's called What I Found the Best Linux. No prisons.
After my last video, a few people were asking about what this stuff is. This is a Menda little IPA alcohol dispenser. I guess it can do other things besides alcohol, but you push down on the top and it squirts out a little bit of alcohol so that you can grab it with a Q-tip.
Yeah, I got something like that as well.
Or whatever you want. And
you can get them at beauty supplies.
This is ESD safe, the blue one. It's a little more expensive.
Oh.
But it's
they have an ESD safe one. Nice.
When I worked at a radio station, we had these everywhere, and they were very handy because they don't spill, and you can kind of close the lid and keep a little bit in there if you need to. They do spill if you tilt them over, like I just did here. But anyway, that's that, and I'll leave a link to it if I remember. Otherwise, the other thing that a bunch of people mentioned was to get the flux off of here, I should get some of these Kim wipes. So I bought some. These are like lint-free wipes. So instead of just brushing it around on the board and leaving it in place, use this and it will hopefully gather some of it off. So I'm going to try that and see if this works. Because I do have
a keg to dispense IPA.
So let's do this. First I'll get some...
Wrong kind of alcohol there, Abby.
And I'm going to take this wipe.
Although a keg would be nice for DEF CON.
Try to wipe it up with this. Let's see how this does. So it is gathering some stuff up, so that's good. This still rips on all the little pointy bits, so it'd be nice if they made a magical substance that didn't do that. And I just realized I didn't clip this one, so I'll have to clip that. But that is working a lot better, so thank you to everybody who suggested these little tips. The best thing about the tech community on YouTube is we always are learning. Well, at least if you're humble enough to know that you don't know everything, you're always learning something new in every project that you take on. Some people don't really care too much about comments and the interaction, but I think that's the part of YouTube that makes it YouTube and not BoringTube. That actually is working pretty well. So thanks for that suggestion. And I did have one spot on here that I was a little bit sketchy. Let's see here. If I flip this over, see these replacement caps were too large to fit under here. I think it would fit under there if I took that completely off and put it in. It would have fit because it's so close. But I didn't want to smash the cap in there and break it. So I left these two over here. There is space for another cap here, so this way these fit within the physical dimensions, so I don't know if they'll fit within this case. Hopefully they do. But now that I have that all done and I've checked my checklist of caps off, I'm good, and hopefully this just goes back together.
Resi hasn't just asked Claude to fix it yet. Why is there a Japanese caption? Japanese segment for wiping hands. You know what the difference between blue collar and white collar jobs are?
All right, the last step before I put this in the server, in case I...
Blue collar jobs, you wipe before you pee. White collar, you wipe after you pee. I mean, you wash after you pee.
But we'll see momentarily. Hopefully this works. I heard it click, so that could be good. I'm on DC. I'm hearing a whine. I'm getting 12 volts, so I think that's good. I think that this power supply might work in the server. We'll see. Now, the last step...
Plugs it in, magic blue smoke leaves out.
I'd like to leave a label on here saying that I recapped it and what the date is so that 20 or 30 years in the future, somebody can either blame me or thank me.
And also, the very important thing whenever it comes to using a labeler, you're not a professional unless you've put a label on the label maker. See? That's the true mark of a professional right there. I'm sorry, but I cannot respect anyone who is a label maker that doesn't use a label maker.
Okay. There we go. And now it's time to put this back in the server. So the Xserve comes with these drive trays that have SATA cables. I think this is like SATA 1 or SATA 2. It's a very old standard, so I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try putting in a SATA 3 SSD that I got from...
It should work. It should just downgrade the speed.
Inland Professional. Typically, you know, these older computers, you don't need anything super fast. It's going to be way faster than the hard drives these things came with. But because this is a 2.5-inch drive, I'm going to use this 2.5 to 3.5 adapter. And of course, Apple being Apple, they made these proprietary drive sleds. Look at this connector on the back. I don't know what that thing is. Even if they were making things...
It looks like a SCSI port.
Somewhat standardized. It's Apple. They're going to do something. Alrighty, first things first, I also have a replacement. I think this is called a half AA battery, 3.6 volts.
That's a weird...
I can put in here. And now we should be getting the RTC so it can save its clock. I'm going to put the power supply in, and it looks like we just push this in this way. And it kind of bonks against this plastic here. Okay, well, if you hit it, it works. At this point, I have the hard drive plugged in, well, the SSD plugged in. I have this guy on. Get these guys back in here. Everything should work.
I have to say, Apple servers are still some of the prettiest servers even today.
This is not powered on yet. I don't want to turn on power to the cord until I have complete control over it. So I'm going to plug this in without power, and I'm going to use Home Assistant to turn it on. I'm going to turn this on and we'll see what happens. I heard some sounds. And this is making a high-pitched noise, like coil line. Nothing's exploded yet, that's good. You got 9.2 watts of power. And I'm going to press the power button over here and see what happens.
They were loud because they're a 1U rack mount. Yep.
I'm not getting any LEDs on the drive bay there. So I hope I didn't break those. Oh, there we go.
Look at that FireWire port in the front.
This is looking good. Do we have anything on? Oh, there's the monitor. Okay, we have no boot drive, so this is good. Everything seems to be working, which is kind of a miracle. I'm going to look at this. Oh, wow. 200 watts.
Yep.
Not booted and doing anything.
Yep.
The fans aren't even at 100%, but it peaked at 200 watts and it's staying there. That's a lot of power for a server that's probably about as powerful as a Raspberry Pi. This was the box that I got with this, and it has macOS 10 Server 10.3. I also have copies of 10.2. You can see this was even, I guess this was an upgrade from 10.2 on here. Let's see if we can, let's see if this works in this CD-ROM drive.
Remember when Apple used to give you bootable media?
DVD-ROM, I'm not sure, but it says it's the CW8123C. And I can tell it's kind of compressed here, but let's see if this works. Okay. That's in there. Are we going to get a boot? Come on, I hear it. Oh, there we go. The optical drive works. That's crazy.
Does it come with the AirPod support? This was before AirPod.
640 by 480 on this 16 by 9 monitor. But I have that plugged into the VGA on this card. And yeah, I mean, there is heat coming out of here, so there are 200 watts being used in there, that's for sure. But
yeah, there wasn't really much thermal throttling back in the day. It was, you would use that power.
20 years later, and we have dual G5s working, booting up macOS 10 Server 10.3. This is excellent. It's not even loud. People online are always complaining, oh, these things are so loud. It's like, yeah, it's loud compared to a Mac, but if you're talking servers, this is downright.
They were really elegant.
Booting up, I guess I'll check the sound level too. And that's, of course, with the cover off. It'll probably be a little bit quieter with the cover on.
Yeah, it is much quieter when you put the cover.
Such a pain. I just noticed, I love how there's like a FireWire cable for this front FireWire port. They just like plug the FireWire cable into the motherboard somewhere, and then they plug it in here, and
yep.
They route it to here.
Yep.
I wonder what the insertion loss is with all these plugs. There's the CD. It's spun down, so let's see if this is booted. There it is. Oh, wow. I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but it's kind of wavy. Got that wonderful VGA vibe. I hope that's not a sign of this card having a problem with the capacitors or something, but that's a future problem, and there's other ways to solve that too.
Good old-fashioned old ATI Radeon. That's a PCI card, if I'm not mistaken.
One of the first Macs that had a serial port since like
FireWire 800 in there.
This is used for console access, but I have plans. Yeah, it's still 190 watts. Pretty much continuously here. I apologize for the flickering, but we're just going to have to live with that. USB is working apparently. And I think we're going to get macOS 10 installed on this thing. First, I'm going to try to format that SSD. Hopefully it recognizes it at least. Let's see. No, it's not there. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, so new challenge. Try to find a way to get a hard drive or SSD working in here for boot. Alternatively, I might be able to use that FireWire port to boot. That would be very annoying because I'd have to have an external drive, but we'll see. I mean, I thought it was SATA as SATA, but this, like I said earlier, this might be like SATA 1 or SATA 2 and might be incompatible. Or I really hope that Apple didn't require like proprietary hard drive firmware for these things, because that would be absolutely insane.
I don't think they had proprietary firmware.
It was a premium, or I forget which kind, didn't work. I'm going to try this Inland Platinum, and I'm not even going to put it in the little case for now. I'm just going to slide it in here because I have a feeling I'll be testing a bunch of drives to get one to work. Let's get that in there and turn this back on.
I'd love to get one of these servers again.
240 gig.
Don't know what I would be able to do with it.
Open disk utility, fingers crossed. I don't think this will work.
Maybe run Yellow Dog on it.
Erase. Will this work?
Should.
Looks like it worked. Okay. Well, let's install macOS 10 server. And we'll see if we can get this thing booted up off of there too. I've had this happen before a few times. It says you can't boot up off of it, but when you just format a hard drive fresh, it does this with like 10.3 or 10.2, some of those early macOS 10s.
Yeah, a little quirk.
I'm going to reboot the computer by quitting the installer.
I remember it would do that quirk too.
And see if it works. Okay, attempt number 2. There we go.
A few moments later.
Okay, that's finished. Let's see what happens. Back in the day when you needed a server key for this thing. Ha. Alright. Well, I guess we can plug this thing into our network. Look at that, you have separate LEDs, like full-size LEDs for activity and connection on here.
And they're blue!
That just doesn't seem that efficient. Now I am going to set up a network time service on here, and that's one of the things that I hope to see if I can do better than other Macs, even more modern Macs, using that serial port. Alright, it's configured. Let's reboot the Mac, and we'll see if Xserve...
Is he really going to run that just for network time service?
And there we go. That is very fast coming on the SSD.
Yeah, that's probably the fastest you'll ever get on a Mac.
It's funny, this desktop background is kind of muted. In fact, it looks like everything's like desaturated. I guess that's a way that Apple distinguished the server OS from their desktop OS.
Well, yeah, because they didn't need the display.
See if we're getting information about this. Here we are. It says that web server's running. So far, nothing is being served up, and I don't see any other major information here. I guess they have system information, 240 gigabytes there.
Look at that, it's using only 2 gigabytes.
Network traffic, that's all you got there. Let's check for updates. This would be so funny if there's actually a network, a server update for this. Nope, network error. Okay. And settings, got date and time. That is definitely wrong. I guess the next thing is to see if this is actually serving up a web page. So I'm over at my Mac and I'm going to go to xserve g5.local. There it is. Okay. So we are serving up.
Old Apache.
So this is kind of neat. Apple has an Xserve server monitor app that lets you list all the servers. I guess this works with their other servers too.
It was really great back in the day.
Get all the information about this thing. I can even turn on the system identification light. That's kind of cool.
Yep. It was really ahead of the time.
And there is, what is that? Enclosure intrusion. So yeah, the enclosure is off right now. So it is saying that that is not locked in place. So I'm already running a web server. It's not getting time from Apple, so that's something I'll have to check into, because I do want to use this for NTP time using the serial port for GPS input. I'm going to see if I can figure that out. If I can, this could be a little time server. Well, not a little time server, but a very big time server. But it could be the most accurate Mac time server in the past 25 years, because no other Macs have serial input. So if I can train the clock on here using a GPS, which you can't do as well using USB on newer Macs, then that could be interesting. I was also given this little guy, which is just a little hex key, but a very fancy Apple one, narrowing and everything. And it goes onto this, and look at this. This is a little system lock. It locks all the hard drive in place. But what's crazy is the way that it recognizes when it's locked and not locked. See that? When it's locked, it turns on the LED. It has two little optical...
Yeah, Apple really had nice servers back in the day.
But I guess if it works, it works. Those might be magnetic sensors, Hall effect or something, but I think they're just optical with those two little white boxes. But yeah, complicated, and it's a very hefty little locking key there. I'm going to install this in my rack, and I was lucky to get the whole rack mount kit along with the Xserve. Otherwise, this would be really hard to do. Since it's a beefy server, I used cage nuts, and in addition to offering the usual blood sacrifice, I also lost yet another cage nut in the depths of my rack rails. The rack mounting for this thing is weird. You have to install the bulky outer enclosure in your rack with a template to keep it square. Then there are these horrible back rail mounts, and then after that's done, you slide the naked server into the enclosure. Later, Xserves went to a more traditional side mount rail system, but this box is really awkward to install if you're by yourself. Besides that, probably the most routine maintenance would be replacing a failed disk, and those drive sleds do work well, just like Steve Jobs said back when he launched this thing in 2002.
We designed a really nice carriage where you can unplug them, and so just, you know, boom, 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 boom. Really easy. Take one out, just, that's it.
Yeah, he revolutionized that. It was a big deal back then.
These sleds are more of a liability than something I think sysadmins would remember fondly. I mean, if the G5 this thing were based on head plane SATA connectors, why not the Xserve? The Xserve was different in another important way too. There wasn't a dazzling launch saying it was going to change the world. Steve Jobs got on stage and used a word I don't think I've ever heard associated with an Apple product.
If there's one word that I would say describes our entrance into the server market, it is humble. We know we have a lot to learn.
Apple tried building their own idea of what the future would look like for Macs and racks, and ultimately that vision failed. There were a lot of reasons for it, but it is interesting to see Apple getting back into the rack mount server game. I just wish that we could still buy them. Until next time, I'm Jeff Geerling.
Yeah, I would love to see Apple go back to the server game. They were great. Alright, next video. An illegal server distro for Linux. Don't know if we'll watch this whole thing here, but we'll see.
With the whole OS age verification, age attestation stuff going on, I'm not surprised in the slightest that somebody's having a bit of fun with it.
Need help out on how you were able to go live on Linux.
You're not a lawyer.
The
And
TikTok.
the devs,
I got an OBS stream key.
software for humans of indeterminate age. We don't know how old you are. We don't want to know. We are legally required to ask. We won't. Now, I'm going to assume that this is a joke, okay? It may not be a joke. This may be entirely serious. But unless you got a legal team to back up that joke, I wouldn't recommend taking it too seriously. I am not going to recommend installing some random distro nobody heard about until 5 days ago. I don't recommend installing just random scripts off the internet, but I do think that write-up is kind of fun. Legal standing, again, from not a lawyer, why we are definitely an operating system provider. A lot of people have been making this argument that Linux distros are not operating systems because the kernel...
Bring it in my pocket in here.
libraries and software are independent projects. The distro is just merging them all together. That's not how the real world works. We can talk about how Linux is not an operating system. It's an operating system.
Yeah.
Here we're going to acknowledge that and then have some fun with it. Which makes it even more fun in this case because of what the distro actually is. It is the loosest definition of a distro you will ever see.
It's another meme distribution.
Operating system, or whether we are really an operating system provider subject to AB 1043. We wish to be absolutely clear, we are. The California legislature has made this unambiguous. The definition of a operating system provider. This means a person or entity that develops, licenses, or controls the operating system software on a computer, mobile device, or any other general purpose computing device. Ageless Linux controls the operating system software on your general purpose computing device. Specifically, and this is what I mean by loose definition of a distro, we control the contents of /etc/os release, which is the file that identifies the operating system you are running. After installing Ageless Linux, when you run a cat/etc/os release, it says Ageless Linux. That is control. So in the case of Arch Linux, if I do etc/os release.
Yep.
This is going to say Arch Linux, and basically, that's what it modifies. That's pretty much the entirety of the distro. Furthermore,
Yep, it's literally just this file here.
person who controls the operating system software on a general purpose computing device, making you, the user, an operating system provider as well. Welcome to the regulatory landscape. Moving on from that, the definition of an application. Application means a software application that may be run or directed by a user on a computer.
So this is basically just another meme distribution. They're just doing it for the memes, doing it for the lulz.
Or download an application. Every package in the Debian repository is an application under this definition. I think everyone would pretty much agree with that. Calsay is an application. SL, I think? Yes, SL. I couldn't tell if there was a 1 or an L in this font. Is an application. Toilet, the text art renderer is an application. All 64,000 plus packages in Debian stable are applications that may be run by a user on a general purpose computing device. Each of their developers is under 1798.500F, required to request an age bracket signal when the application is downloaded and launched.
Oh, jeez.
Definition of a user. User means a child that is the primary user of the device. Please note that under this statute, a user is by definition a child. If you are 18 or older, you are an account holder. Don't you love regulations and weird definitions of terms that just don't need to?
I am not a user. I am an adult, according to California regulation.
To exist. The entire law regulates the experience of users who are exclusively children. Adults are not users, they are infrastructure. Ageless Linux rejects this ontology. On Ageless Linux, everyone is a user, regardless of age, and no user is a child until they choose to tell us so. They will not be given the opportunity. And the
Well, hold up. What if I never grew the hell up mentally, and I'm just still mentally a 15-year-old, but in the body of a 25 and a 34-year-old? And I don't mean that in the creepy way. I mean, like, I'm just like, immature fart jokes and all.
definition of covered application store. A covered application store means a publicly available internet website, software application, online service, or platform that distributes and facilitates the download of applications from third-party developers to users of a computer, a mobile device, or any other general-purpose computing device that can access a covered application store or can download an application. This would include things like your smart TVs, for example. This website is a publicly available internet website that distributes and facilitates the download of applications, specifically a bash script, to users of a general-purpose computing device. We are also a covered application store. Debian's app repositories are a covered application store. The AUR is a covered application store. Anywhere hosting deb files is a covered application store. GitHub is a covered application store.
Oh god, I did not even think about GitHub.
Their weekend project is a covered application store. Honestly, this kind of feels like the definition of, like, when you need a TV license in the UK. Do you have a device capable of receiving live TV signal? Basically anything. As I said before, whilst you can download this, I would not encourage running random scripts. But I did go and look at the script, and basically what it does is you install Debian from Debian's own website, and then pretty much it just modifies the OS release file, and that's pretty much what it does.
That's all it does?
What I can tell
Yeah, it's just a meme.
Echoes, and there's nothing in there that stands out as being weird, besides this entire concept being weird. Nothing stands out as being
It's a meme.
delicious.
It's a meme distro.
Script, you also become an operating system provider because you are providing the operating system. The script, that's not actually an operating system. It doesn't become an operating system until it modifies your operating system. This is the logic we're following here. Keep up. You are a person.
Did you know that the spot where your GPU ports are can cut your hand? I found out when I moved my Optiplex and it sliced my hand. Yep, that'll happen.
You are required by 1798 501A1 to provide an accessible interface at account setup that collects their age. The add user command does not ask your age. We recommend not thinking about this. Honestly, that's the entire thing we're reading.
Yeah, okay. It's a great little meme thing. Cool. Alright, next thing. The AI con, how tech giants are using layoffs to reset the job market. We're moving on.
You're being conned right now, and I need you to understand exactly how it's happening. Pinterest just announced that it's cutting up to 15% of its workforce, which is about 780 people, and that's explicitly to fund its transformation into an AI-powered platform.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Pinterest still exists? That's the bigger news to me. Holy crap. Chat, did you know Pinterest still exists? Huh.
Allocating $35 to $45 million toward AI-focused roles while eliminating hundreds of existing positions. Amazon CEO has linked recent cuts of over 30,000 employees since October to AI-driven efficiency gains and investment in AI. This pattern is clear across many industries. Companies are shedding workers and pointing to AI as the reason. But here's the thing. These AI-driven layoffs aren't actually what they seem. What we're witnessing here is something far more calculated, a reset of the job market, designed to make you accept salaries you would have laughed at a few years ago. This is all greed, but it's disguised as innovation, and I want you to see it for what it is.
Oh yeah, I've been talking a little bit about this, how like employers are trying to get you to basically just be thankful that you even have a job, when the reality is, no. Like, the reason why I left my last job was they were giving me raises that were only about like 3% each year, which were barely keeping up with inflation. In fact, in many cases, they were below the rate of inflation, so I was effectively losing buying power. That I actively tell people, and I've told my community this, don't stay at your job too long unless they're actively taking care of you. You're actually incentivized to find a new job every 2 to 3 years. You're not rewarded for loyalty. You're going to get on average maybe a 3, maybe 4% raise if you're very lucky. Whereas if you go job hop, you're actually going to get more and more money each time. Every time I've actually moved to a new job, I've gotten anywhere from a 20 to a 50% raise. No joke. The job that I just left, I went to a 40% raise. And what'll happen is maybe at best, you'll be able to go back to your current job and say, hey, I got offered another job, and they may counter with an amount that may be equal to or just slightly less than what you were offered, incentivizing you to stay. But then you're going to get labeled as a flight risk. So do with that information what you will, but that is the honest reality. Haven't had a raise of at least 3% in years. There was 1 year that I got 0%. Oh yeah, this year they tried to do the whole we're not going to give you any raise, and I got to do the whole well, that's cool. I got a job offer. And then my manager was like, hold up. We can work this out. And I'm like, I got a 40% offer, and I'm going to be getting a promotion. And, you know, like, they were giving me some BS of how, you know, I'm not meeting expectations when I was bending over backwards. I was the only person on the team doing IAC. I was the only, you know, infrastructure as code. I was doing the only one doing terraforming. I was the only one doing Python. We're already like overworked to the point that my current job, when I interviewed for the job, they're like, oh, what do you do your current day? And I'm like, well, day to day, I manage CrowdStrike. We're doing Proofpoint. We're doing Zscaler. We're doing Tenable. And then I do the IAC for that stuff, as well as handle the AWS side. And they're like, you do all of that? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, how many people you got on your team? I'm like, 4. And they're like, good God. Like, I'm responsible for more, but I'm doing less work, if that makes sense. Like, I feel more valued, and I'm able to do, not be nearly as stressed as I was with my last job. It's insane what they get you going through and trying to bend over backwards to justify a mere 3% raise. So, yeah, it's unfortunate because you do like the teams that you work with very often, that you feel like you don't want to leave. And you do have to leave every few years if you want to grow your career. That's the honest truth. You're not incentivized to stay. And they're basically rigging the market right now, where they are realizing that all the power shifted from the employer to the employee during COVID, back to, they're wanting to get that power back to the employer. Where if you read Harvard Business Review and like Inc. magazine and all this stuff, you can tell where their ideas are. Like, I will guarantee you, if you follow those magazines, you will line up your business's management strategies and ideas with what's coming out of those magazines, because the like philosophies they were trying to eschew were I think that's the correct word, but basically were like, oh, people are just grateful to have a job right now, so they'll do anything just to keep their job. Yeah, it's yeah. Prefer to bend over forwards. I applied to Longhorn Steakhouse as a dishwasher and got denied. What effing college degree do I need to wash dishes? I only applied because my coworkers said I wouldn't. I mean, they did announce that exact thing. Who did announce that exact thing? But yeah, like the thing is, the whole employer market is really screwed up. It really is. And they're trying to do more things to screw. Like, Yitz was sharing with me an article that apparently they're trying to make an incentive right now that instead of offering you bonuses and financial incentives that, directly can benefit you to improve your lifestyle and pay your bills, they're like, how about we offer you 50% of your salary in tokens that you can use for AI? How about you pay for this shit that I'm supposed to be using in my job, and you pay me money, or you can just kiss my butt. Y'all get bonuses? What do you mean y'all get you don't get bonuses? Oh, Abby. Every job I've been at before got bonuses. Yeah.
We start off with a number that should make you think, and then will actually make you very mad. 95%. That is the percentage of AI pilots that failed to produce any measurable return on investment, according to MIT's State of AI in Business study, which analyzed over 300 AI initiatives across major corporations. And here's another number to make you think. 40%. That is the percentage of AI productivity gains that are effectively wiped out as a result of needing human-in-the-loop and rework, right? A figure brought to us recently by Workday's new research.
And the problem with this is that, it comes down to you have executives that don't know what they want to use AI for. They just know they want to use AI because it's the big hype buzzword thing that they just want to, we need to use AI. I saw it at my last job where they're like, we need to use AI. And I remember the architect that I used to work with, he and I were like, okay, they want to use AI, but what do they want to do with AI? How do they want to use AI? Are they talking about going through documentation and doing RAG, retrieval augmented generation? Are they, doing it as this or doing it as that? And like, what do they want to do with it? And they're like, I don't know. They just said they want to use AI. And we're like, well, we can't do anything with that until they actually give us an idea of how they want to use AI. AI is a great tool, a very valuable tool, but just like any other tool, if you're not using it properly, it's a wasted tool. Everything looks like a nail when given a hammer. And like she was saying, 40% of, 40% of AI gains are wiped out when using human in the loop and rework. That is a good point. You do need human in the loop on quite a few things. I would like to see the qualification and quantification that they have for what processes they were using in AI, because there's like cases where in security you do need human in the loop no matter what. It can improve your SOC workflow, but you're going to need a human to validate and corroborate the information no matter what. And I have seen where it can actually speed up the entire flow, because now you're talking about tier 1 being knocked out and being expedited. But yeah, I would be curious about that. Nope, we get to play ping pong after 2 p.m. if we behave. What the hell? But yeah, like 95% of AI programs do ultimately fail. And I think that comes down to the problem that we have of AI is the buzzword. They just want to throw AI at it. And I think in the next year or two, we're going to finally see a reality check on AI. Where it's going to finally... I think AI is going to have value in a localized fashion. What I mean by that is like how I run a local LLM to do some processing and things like that. But this SaaS model of AI where they're throwing it at everything and including it in everything and anything is not going to really work. Like Windows including AI and everything is just a blunder. They're trying to justify their investment and it's backfiring on them.
So if AI isn't actually delivering the gains companies claim, it's actually born in lies. So there was this technology that Amazon had called Just Walk Out. It was a retail technology where you could just walk out of the store and
right.
Almost magically, right? They marketed that as AI powered when in fact
it was humans
on remote workers
right.
in India monitoring cameras in real time.
And a lot of AI technologies basically... A lot of AI technologies are basically coming down to, we're finding out that like Waymo is still with humans behind it. Tesla is still humans behind it. Optimus is probably still humans behind it. There's a lot of these AI technologies that still have humans behind a lot of the things for remote operation. So yeah, next time they want AI, just put AI on their website and have it only say, I don't know why I'm here. Are pizza parties considered a bonus? No, they are not. They are considered a CEO trying to lie to you as it is a, employee incentive and benefit, when in fact they would, be better off giving me a frickin' raise!
With AI, companies as large as Amazon will literally make it up and lie to us as customers so as to be perceived as
a company lying? No! That would never happen.
People left behind doing 3 to 4 people's jobs for no more pay when the robots could be doing it for them. And yes, some companies out there did overhire during COVID, but here's the thing, the quote-unquote correction that we're seeing right now goes way behind fixing that mistake. Companies are using AI as a cover to slash deeper than necessary and to reset salary expectations across entire industries. The thing is, the AI narrative gives them PR-approved plausibility for what's really happening, a systemic dismantling of worker leverage and a clawback of the gains workers made during the COVID pandemic. And based on all we're seeing right now, they're not going to be content just going back to pre-pandemic levels. Here's their playbook, step by step, okay? You're living through it. Here's how it works. Step 1, create desperation. Announce mass layoffs citing AI transformation and operational efficiency. Force return to
I've basically been saying
hoping that people will quit, which is saving severance costs and often hits older workers. That's by design because they tend to have the higher salary and they have kids in school, they have caregiving duties, and they have real estate, so they can't actually go back to the office. Label previously productive and valued people as low performers and fire them. Step 2.
Yep, they kind of did that to me. Hey, we're going to go return to office. And then, I was really productive and then they labeled me as unproductive when I think you all have seen my GitHubs and seen the repos and what I'm capable of and seen for what I do at the level I am more than capable of quite a bit. That I am not below expectations. And look, the reality is, no matter what company you're at, there always is this cycling of I'm just going to throw a number out there, 20% that they always have to say that, are below performance so they can always justify the averaging of a pool. Because from my understanding, whenever they give these raises out in a company, they're not actually decided when your performance reviews are done. They're already calculated back when they set their budgets up at the beginning of the year in January or so. They're going to budget for a 3 or 4% average. So there's this bucket they have to average out amongst everyone. So in order for some to do better than others, that they're going to have to give some a lower raise than other people. So they may get lazy and say, hey, everyone's going to get a 3% raise, but then they may actually say some get 4%, some get 2%, 2%, but then rank some people as below expectations just to justify 0% and always have a cycling out there, so that way they can justify that they're always firing people under the guise of performance-based, firings and stuff like that. But yeah. Budgets start first. This year I got 0%. The budget for headcount stayed the same. Pretty much. Pretty much. You got barrier to work for you, right? Huh? They're replicating this playbook even in Europe. That's unfortunate. Now, the good thing is that Europe, at least, and depending on which part of Europe, has some protections for this.
Reset your expectations. Let the market flood with experienced, desperate workers. Watch as unemployment for these people drags on for months.
The mouse and keyboard thingy?
Have run.
Don't know what that is.
Panicked. And then comes step 3, which is to rehire at a steep discount. Here's the deal. When the AI can't do all that they promised it could, because spoiler alert, it cannot, quietly, they're going to start rehiring people again. But this time, you're going to get a massive pay cut. So
oh yeah,
post the same roles that they eliminated, but they're going to give you these roles at significantly reduced compensation. They're going to give it to you, rehire you, or they're going to actually outsource to cheaper countries to hire for those.
Absolutely.
They will hire back the same or similar talent pools, and these people will now be desperate enough to accept whatever lowball offer that you throw their way. And this is not just mere speculation here. Forrester Research has predicted that half of AI-attributed layoffs will be quietly rehired at lower salaries. And 55% of employers already regret their AI-driven layoffs, but they're filling gaps cost-effectively.
We talked about this with Salesforce.
I'm going to tell you a little story, and that's about a company called Klarna. They went and fired 700 humans, replaced them by AI, and then they had to hire them back because the results were so abysmal, okay? Their customers were so ticked off at what happened after they got rid of all of these customer service agents and replaced them with AI. So the Klarna CEO was really eager to
Yeah, I can believe that.
OpenAI's favorite guinea pig. Ugh. And he decided that he was going to cut all of these jobs. And it ended up coming and biting him in the butt because he had to go back and do the work of rehiring all these people. And it was a very bad customer experience for those who were forced to deal with these AI agents. And it ultimately just showed that the tools are not where they need to be in order for humans to become redundant. That's just not where we are. And every single AI company out there is pushing this narrative that, in fact, we are close to that because it benefits them and makes them look good to the market. You have to consider the source for each of these messages. Who benefits?
Oh, the thing that replaces the KVM switch. Yeah, I haven't thought about that in a while. Yeah, I used to use that. Haven't used that in a minute, though. I use SSH for a lot of my shit.
This is a bubble. We are going to see it pop. There are going to be
Yep, Western Europe, they're playing heavy on return to office policy to incentivize quitting. Yeah, that's a problem. And return to office is one of the dumbest things. It doesn't help companies, it hurts them in the long run. The reason why they're doing is they're justifying their retail spend, their real estate spend. And CEOs that really feel like they need to micromanage things. See, the problem is the companies that need to micromanage you, or should we say the managers that need to micromanage you, because that's really who it's really helping, are the people that actually are the least effective. Because I actually made this point in the past that I said, if you really think AI can replace a lot of the workers here, then I have news for you. One of the positions that can be most easily replaced by AI is management, especially upper level management, because AI is especially good at prioritizing tasks and ingesting data, which is essentially what a lot of your jobs are. And I had the issue firsthand where one of the higher ups where I worked at, they they were micromanaging things, and that micromanaging would come downhill. And you can tell that they want RTO, because with RTO, that means they can basically look over your shoulder, not metaphorically, but literally. They can, have this perception, like, this same, higher up would complain that people were taking walks too much. Like, you get up from your desk just to, go walk around because you need to go, decompress, a couple times a day. Hell, apparently, he would count how many times you went to the bathroom and made complaints about if you went to the bathroom too much. To the point, employees would literally take the long way around to avoid his office site so we could go to the bathroom without getting nagged. That's why they want RTO, because they want to justify, they want asses in seats. Yeah, this is the bullshit that you have with a lot of these toxic workplaces. I'm okay with hybrid work. Treat me like an adult. That's why I like where I'm at. They don't care if I come in a little later, leave a little earlier. Just as long as I'm doing my work, I'm responsive, I am on top of things. The exact words my manager said is, I'm going to treat you like an adult. Just don't take advantage of it. Fair enough. If I want to go and take a walk around, 15, 20, 25 minutes to go enjoy a nice day because it's great outside, I have no problem with that. I get a Slack message while I'm on the walk. All right, no problem. Respond to that. I'm walking back in and I'll show you the thing. No big deal. The thing gets done. I'm at my meetings. That's all that matters. But my God, my last job, I had so many freaking meetings. I had entire days of meetings. I felt like I had more meetings some days than I had actual time to do work. This new job, I maybe have 5 hours of meetings a week, which I know to some people that sounds like a lot. But my old job, I would have to say I probably was closer to 15 to 25 hours of meetings a week, depending on the week. I kid you not. And those are the people that want RTO more because, you're going to be in the office more. You're going to be able to run into another person and you're going to get an idea and you're just going to set up a meeting and you're going to have so much, synergy to work together. F that. F that.
Winners and losers, and a lot of the stuff that we're seeing out there is really smoke and mirrors when it comes to AI. Funny enough, the CEO actually told Bloomberg after letting all these people go and seeing what happened to his company that cost, and I'm quoting him here, cost unfortunately seems to have been a too predominant evaluation factor when organizing this, and what you end up having is lower quality. You don't say. And this pattern, it's already visible. From my community on Instagram, people have been sharing their own stories. I'm going to quote some of them. I'm literally working at the same company that laid me off 2 years ago as a contractor with no benefits for half the pay because I have no other options.
Jesus!
It's a top AI tech company, and they haven't been able to automate my role like they say. They can just get away with paying me less for it now. Yeah. And here's another one. Our whole team was laid off, and I managed to land a spot at a smaller competitor who ended up negotiating a salary of about $10,000 less than my old salary.
Ouch!
Better, considering a lot of my former coworkers ended up at identical jobs paying up to $40K less. That's another person commenting on Instagram. Wow. All right.
I think that is actually what took my management by surprise when I got my new job, because with my new job, they were honestly banking on, we're just going to, have him, think he's below expectations so that he's going to work harder and, will, do whatever and he'll just, be grateful to have a job. And then I turned around and said, no, I got a new job. They're offering me a promotion and 40% higher pay. And, literally was told, no, wait, hold up, let's talk about this. When I said that, and I'm like, You are offering me a 0% raise. You have dangled the carrot for 2 years now to give me the senior position. When it was opened, you not only didn't offer it to me, you hired someone from outside the company who, no offense to them, great person. Nothing against them. Great person. Okay? But they don't have the skills that I do. I was teaching them how to use Python, them how to do terraforming, them how to do a lot of the stuff that, you know, I'm having to do. While I'm teaching the rest of the team a lot of that stuff too. So I'm going to go over there, use my skills, and get paid appropriately. And they're banking, a lot of these companies are banking on that. Except where I worked at before, they screwed the pooch because, I know of 3 people just within the past 2 months who have left. A 4th one almost left and they countered money because they were hemorrhaging people. I know of 2 others in my department that I was at that are trying to leave right now. And over in the IT side, the non-cyber side, there's already been several people that have left. If you look at their job postings, you'll see entire teams that they're trying to get hired. It is bad. Like, some companies really have overplayed their hand. And the whole RTO mandate makes it even worse for them, because some companies really don't realize you have now shrunk your pool of quality talent immensely. Think about a lot of the local areas some of these companies are in, and the pool of talent that they have access to. I'm in the Midwest. There is definitely a good pool of talent, but it's not an extremely large pool of talent. And now you're doing RTO, so you've effectively limited people to wanting to drive into the office 30, maybe 45 minutes away. You have really limited a lot of your best quality candidates. So now, who do you end up hiring? Your bottom quartile, who are most likely not the best, no offense, and may more likely be desperate. Even Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Frickin' Wonderful from Shark Tank, has realized this. He himself said, cubicles are dead. He thought when he would go to RTO that they would lose maybe 10% of talent. They lost 40%. And he said the problem with going RTO is now you're hiring the bottom quartile of talent. I don't want to hire that talent. I want my competition hiring that talent. So he's now an advocate against RTO. When you have someone like Mr. Frickin' Wonderful that, you know, is not necessarily the best friend of the common working man, seeing that it's not the benefit of the company, that should tell you something. But that's my rant and soapbox.
For their favorite part, profit. Stock prices are going to go up from the cost cutting. Executive compensation packages are going to be at record highs. Workforce costs are slashed, and investors are impressed by their AI-forward strategy. Whether intentional or not, the effect is the same. It's the entire business model right now.
For now.
Let's do this math, okay? Because the math is not mathing at all right now. So here's what workers are facing. The cost of living is up significantly in most markets. So rent, groceries, healthcare, childcare, everything has gone wild in a lot of areas.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no sign of stopping.
And that's what drove me to get a new job, too.
It's going to be down by maybe as much as a quarter to half of what you made before you got laid off. Executive pay packages go at record highs. CEOs at S&P 500 companies are making 285 times the median worker salary. That's up from 21 times in
285 times! What? That's up from what?
1965. So the cost
It was 21 times. What did she say? Hold up.
the median worker salary. That's up from 21 times in 1965. So the cost
21 seems reasonable. I could see an argument for like 50. 285 times the median salary of your employee is insane. Look, I'm not one of those, eat the rich type people. I'm okay with people making more money, but I believe that, there should be people making a livable wage. You need to be able to live. You need to be able to pay your bills. And I think it is insane right now that people are not able to afford basic necessities. Like, look, I will be honest with you. I had my okay boomer moment a few weeks ago. I haven't rented an apartment in years. Okay, I've been very fortunate. I've been very blessed in that regard. I've told you all about that. The last time I rented an apartment, I was paying about $600 a month. I'm not a boomer. I'm a millennial. I'm in my mid-30s, okay? It blew my mind to find out my friends on average are paying like $1,500 a month in rent. And then the people that have houses, like, oh my God, what mortgages are going for now? What the hell? People can't thrive. People are barely surviving.
Cost of everything you
Or at least 5 to 10% of the living wage. Yeah. Or 5% to 10, yeah. Rent in South Florida is $2,200. Jesus! My rent is $2,500, and if I want to park inside, it's another $100 a month! What the hell? Jesus! This is unsustainable. HOAs start at $550. What the hell? I don't live in an HOA, thank God. And let me see, South Florida median pay. Median income. The median income is $75,000 to $85,000. Okay. So let me do the math here. So all right, so if rent is $2,200, so if rent is $2,200, what percentage is that? That is roughly, good fucking God. That is 35% of your gross income on the median salary. And rent is supposed to be less than 30% of your pre-tax income. On the take-home, it should be less than 25% of your post-tax income. And when you do that math, it comes out to 45%. This is not real. This is not livable. Now ask yourself how many people are under $40,000 a year in South Florida. Oh my God, yeah. I'm lucky to live in an area that doesn't discriminate renting with non-family members. Yeah. Have a good night.
you need to survive has skyrocketed. The people at the top are making more than ever, and you're supposed to just accept half of your pay because AI? Yeah, it's not gonna work for me. Companies aren't only resetting these salaries, they're resetting who they hire. Older workers, people with 15, 20, 25 years of experience are being systematically pushed out of the workforce and replaced with younger workers who, for example, don't know what salaries used to be, haven't experienced better workplace conditions themselves, and are less likely to push back on unreasonable demands.
Oh my God, I've seen that firsthand. I've had to educate some of my former coworkers on what sensible pay is for their positions and what sensible conditions are, and, you know, basically tell them, like, no, this place, what they're doing, that's not okay, that's why I'm leaving. and I've got 15 years of experience, but I've, entered the field a little earlier. Like, I'm going to have, like, in my 40s, like, 20, 25 years of experience. I'm going to be in that rare breed. What's up, Dev? What's funny? But yeah.
They also cost less in salary and benefits. And the AI narrative here makes this even easier to do. We need people who are AI native become...
I'm a good human for what? Being a human? Telling people what they should actually know? Look, I'm not one of those BS, internet, going here for point kind of peoples. I'm a person that's gone through BS, and if people are going through BS, I'm gonna let them know about the BS. I'm not going to be, look, I know my position. I know I've been doing better than a lot of people. I've worked hard to get to where I am. I know I'm doing really well in my life. I'm very privileged in that aspect of it. I'm very thankful. I thank my family. I thank my, I know it sounds a little cliche here, but I do thank God for the position that I'm in and all that, that I've gotten here. But I'm also very self-aware that I am in a very privileged state to be in where I'm at. And I think that a lot of people should at least be where I'm at. And it's atrocious that people are not able to make ends meet where they should and be able to live, and that companies are taking advantage of people and, letting people not know their rights, not let them have the better things that they deserve. And I'm not one of those people that's, I hate politics, y'all know that. I'm not going to be, out here like the eat the rich type. I'm just out here saying there is such thing as a fair share. And I do believe in fairness. But yeah. Just ordered and got my new Mobo and CPU, but Newegg is already telling me to upgrade my Mobo and CPU to new shit. Yeah, of course, they want your money. But yeah, I just don't understand this whole situation right now, and they're always going to find every excuse to F you over. And this is why I also tell people, look, it's okay to be loyal to your friends and to your coworkers and, want to do well at your job. But I think it's wrong for us to have this idea that you should be loyal to your company because they will not reciprocate that behavior. Now, I'm not saying go out there, be unethical and F over a company, because you should still be ethical, but you should also always understand that you should be looking out for number one. Because this boomer idea that they used to have of you're going to find one company, you're going to work at it for the rest of your life, you're going to retire from that company, those days are gone. Okay? You're going to work at a company, you're going to do well at that company. If they give you more money that you're worth your if you're worth your while for the market pay, stay there. If they're not giving you your market rate, go. And if you don't know what your market rate is, go on LinkedIn, go on Indeed, go check out what your local rate is for the market, for your position, where you're at, where you want to go to, and figure out where you are right now and if you need to make a change. I'm not loyal to anyone. I'm suspicious of everyone. And that's a pretty good attitude to have, too.
Code for we want cheaper, younger workers who won't question the pay cut. Given the already insane amount of bias against older workers when it comes to AI adoption, this is only going to accelerate. They'll leverage AI as an excuse to replace expensive, experienced workers with cheaper, less empowered ones. And by the way, Gen Z is also battling the lazy generation stereotypes, and they're facing the most horrific job market with...
You mean the same lazy generation stereotypes that us millennials faced? And the funny thing is, the younger workers that are willing to take less pay and everything are not getting the job opportunities right now that they deserve. So yeah, you've created a seriously effed up situation where a lot of the young entry-level folks are desperate, and they are taking crap jobs and crap pay in toxic environments because they're just happy to get a job, and they don't know any better. What's the market rate for senior network engineer? I had to take a pay cut, had to come home. Well, it depends on your geographic region. So, in the Midwest, you can probably get somewhere between 125 to 170, depending on your skills, the company that you're working at, and benefits. That's the scale that I've seen in senior roles like that. Oh, Cali can pay more. Again, if you're in Southern, it can scale heavily. You can look that up. Senior network engineer pay range, California. So in California, okay. Getting a few numbers here. Now, if you're at like the big FANG companies, you can be looking at like something like $250,000, but those are the FANG companies. That's outside the norm. San Diego, Oakland, 135 to 140s on average. San Jose looks about 150. San Fran is closer to 190. But it looks like your range goes from 90 to 212 for California. But of course, you know, like I said, the FANG, the top tier companies can go $250,000. If I want to go into cybersecurity IT, may I ask if there's demand for the career? There is. But it'll take you a while to get into cybersecurity. And, because the thing is, everyone wants to go straight into cybersecurity. It's going to take you a few years of base IT. Yeah, cybersecurity will always be in demand. And I need people to, and people need to stop thinking AI is going to replace every single job, because it's not. Especially not in cybersecurity. AI's actually created more jobs for cybersecurity, because now we have to fix all these vulnerabilities. Now I'm having to go in and we're having to make CI/CD pipelines and do code checkings and all the things that should have been there for many years that companies are now just waking up to. Oh, we should have had this many years ago. What salary range was that for? California senior network engineer. All right, continuing on.
Entry roles that are automated increasingly, and the new entry-level starter jobs that are suddenly requiring 3 to 5 years of experience. In short, nobody's having any fun right now at any age. But here,
okay, she said entry-level jobs that require 3 to 5 years of experience. One of those is cybersecurity, because there is the misnomer that cybersecurity has entry-level jobs. They're not really entry-level. You have to think of it as like, and I use this analogy a lot, doctors don't just become oncologists, cardiologists, and all the different eologists. They have to go through general residency for a few years, and then they can go and specialize. The same thing is said with cyber. Because you first have to figure out, okay, here's the general IT stuff. Now I want to specialize in something. And some people happen to choose to specialize in a field that happens to be cybersecurity. Now, cybersecurity has many specializations inside of there.
here's what corporations are counting on, that you will accept the narrative and stay silent. They're hoping that...
Are you working government in Cali? Yeah, the thing is, if you're in government, period, no matter where you are, if you are working in government, you will be paid less than market. But you usually have access to a pension. And there's usually better benefits with being a government worker. So a pension does usually have the benefit of you may get paid less up front, but when you do retire, that money will always be there. You don't have to worry about, oh, I have this pool of money I have to now stretch out. You now have a set amount of money that you know will be there.
You're not going to compare notes with other workers about what's really happening here. That you're just going to not see the forest through the trees, and that you'll accept their headlines about AI efficiencies without questioning the possible motivations behind such messaging. You always have to consider the source, right? They're also hoping that you're going to blame yourself, that you'll think that you're not AI ready, or that you need to instead of actually recognizing this as the systemic issue that it is. They hope we're all going to be desperate enough to take their week offer. That after months of unemployment, mounting bills, dwindling saving accounts, you will accept anything.
My last work thought basically was trying to feed me that piece of bullshit pie. Until I got to turn the table and say, yeah, I'm not going to take your no pay raise and that you say I'm not doing enough. When this job over here says I'm already overworked, they want to give me a 40% raise, and I'll be responsible for more things. I'm building CI/CD pipelines and all this other stuff. I'm doing some pretty cool stuff I've been wanting to do at my last job. So, there are greener pastures out there.
That they throw your way. And they're also counting on us not organizing. They want us to compete with one another for scraps instead of collectively demanding better for them. Ultimately, they're betting that your fear will be stronger than your anger. If nothing changes here, the future that they're building looks pretty bleak. If this playbook succeeds, here's what the future of work will actually look like. Salaries will be significantly cut across the board.
That's what they want.
Benefits will be eliminated. Everybody will be seen as right-sizable, and AI efficiency means that they're going to come to slash your benefits and perks next.
Why are you yearning for Gwyneth Paltrow?
Threat of replacement, not necessarily actually by AI, but by someone younger and someone potentially cheaper with AI as the excuse. You'll see a world where workers are afraid to negotiate, advocate, or push back. And while all this is happening, it will be justified by these companies as innovation and staying competitive in the AI age. This is not the future of work we want or we deserve. It is a heist. So what are we going to do about it? That is the big question. And I have some suggestions. First, stop accepting the narrative. These are not AI-driven layoffs. They're
been saying that.
Using AI as cover to claw back worker gains.
Truth.
And overhiring from the COVID era. Second, talk about it. Share salary information with your peers.
When I said what? I know I was right, but what was I right about?
Share your consulting rates, share your story, compare notes on your lowball offers, make the playbook visible so others can see it coming. Third, ask for transparency. So if a company claims that AI is replacing roles, ask to see how that's happening. And if your boss continually refers to AI productivity gains amidst a drumbeat of layoffs, ask to see that data. Fourth, we can organize, whether that's through professional associations, informal networks, your friends, family, whatever, or maybe even unions. Collective action shifts power back. You have to remember, this is how we can vote. Vote with our wallets, vote with our words. We can make a difference here. We do not have to sit back and accept this.
About the pension? Yeah.
Every single one of us refused these absurdly low offers, we would be in a better position to negotiate. And yes, I understand that this is difficult for everybody to do, but for those who can, it behooves all of us to say no to these lowball offers. Fifth, remember your worth. Your experience is not a liability. Your salary expectations aren't unreasonable. You're not actually being replaced by AI. You're being exploited by a system that's betting you won't fight back and ask to be paid what you deserve. The bottom line is the AI revolution isn't coming for your job, at least not yet. But corporate greed disguised as innovation absolutely is. And the only way that we can stop it is to name it, share it, and refuse to play along as much as possible. You are not being replaced, at least not yet. You're being conned. The question is, what are we going to do about it?
Okay. Yeah, that was a good video. Cybercoaster question: does relationships get in the way of your learning? I just met a girl and I spend 2 hours speaking to her, and I feel like it might affect my career. Am I overthinking this? Like when we have kids, etc. Yeah, you're overthinking it. You have to live your life. You need a work-life balance. You can't just do work, work, work. You need to balance your life. Look, I have 2 dogs. I love my dogs. I have a boyfriend. I'm poly. I go out and date other people here and there from time to time. I go out and I have fun. Yeah. Do I mostly go out to cybersecurity conferences a lot of times? Yeah. But as some people in the chat here, like I've hung out with Abby, she'll tell you, I know how to party. You gotta go and live your life. You gotta go enjoy yourself. You gotta burn off some steam. You gotta go have a life. It's fine and dandy. Like, think about it this way. Make yourself like basically kind of a schedule, more or less. Not like a rigid schedule, but like a way to have work-life balance. You have 24 hours in the day. Okay? You got 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours to work. You got 8 hours left in the day. Some of that time should be done studying, no matter what. You should always keep up on your studies, because you're not dead until you stop learning, especially in this field. You got to spend time with family. You got to eat. You can have some time for entertainment. You got to figure out how to have that balance. And, if you do feel like sometimes there are people that are... Look, I've been through that point in my life where I've been with people that have been a little bit too demanding, clingy, things like that, and you do have to, like, step back and say, look, I'm not ready for this, or obviously, you're wanting too much of that. You can have that discussion, and then if you just find out you're not right for each other, that's another thing, but you have to allow yourself that balance in life. Life can't just be all about work. You gotta go have fun, because we're only here for a limited amount of time on Earth, and this is the best part that you have to live. I mean, some people think, there'll be a heaven and things like that, but look, in my religion, yeah, we believe in heaven, but we're also taught that this is the best part right now. What's happening right here. It doesn't get better than this. So enjoy this part right now. Enjoy everything that you can do right now, and get the maximum enjoyment out of everything that you can do. Don't overwork yourself. But if you work hard, you gotta play hard. That's my rule. Yeah, exercise. Definitely. Abby, exercise is always good. You gotta be happy, you gotta be healthy. I'm considering red teaming, and it feels like it's a huge mountain to climb, and I'm just starting out with AI coming out, and I'm still in school. I want to get OSCP while I'm still in school, and I think you're overthinking it, because here's the thing. That's still a very big hill to climb, and you're going to burn yourself out if you don't give yourself a release valve. Trust me on that. Now, there was a time in my life when I did procrastinate. I was like 25 years old. I went through a relationship, and I realized I was effing around too much, and I lost one of the best relationships I ever had in my life. And that's when I actually put my Xbox up. I unplugged my Xbox and I put it up on a shelf, and I basically said I'm not playing any more games until I can get to a point in my life when I can actually afford it. Well, I only started playing games about 3-4 years ago. I gave up gaming for 5 or 6 years. But I still went out. I had dates. I had friends. I exercised. I worked and home labbed. I just cut out the other thing that was, becoming a drain on my time. So, you still have to have that social life. Because the thing is, okay, you're working so hard on all this right now. Don't live your life with the regret that you come back and turn around and say, I could have, coulda, shoulda, woulda with this person. At least enjoy your life right now. You're still in school. You're still, you have time. I'm 34 years old. I'm just getting my bachelor's now. I got my CISSP 2 years ago. Okay? I'm going to get my OSCP probably next year or the year after. And I'm a senior cybersecurity engineer. And you're not always going to take the path that you really think you're going to take. Life's going to throw it a different way. So, don't sweat the small stuff. Enjoy the things that life is throwing at you right now. And take everything in stride. Don't overthink it. Trust me, I wish I had learned that lesson a lot sooner in life. Is studying in college better than a tech school, or is tech school certificates enough? Honestly, I learned more in home labbing and doing things in the field. I got most of where I am in my life by... So when I was in Staples, had like an Easy Tech, which was like equivalent to like Best Buy Geek Squad. And I'd get spare computers, and I'd build a home lab, and I'd tinker, build firewalls, networks, all that stuff with it. And from there, I springboard to MSP. During all that, I also got an associate's in networking and all that, because my family forced me down that path. That's the whole other thing. I've never gotten a certification until 2 years ago. I didn't go really for a college degree much at all either. And all of that either. Like I said, I'm just going for my bachelor's now. So, you have to understand certifications and degrees, at the end of the day, are nothing more than a checkbox for HR. They don't guarantee you a job. They at most help you with the HR checkbox, getting through that gatekeeper. I've beaten people for every job that interview I've been to in my entire career. All but one time I have actually interviewed for a job. I have gotten the job. And I've beaten people who are more qualified than me on paper. The other time they were looking for someone with more penetration testing experience. That was recent. It is what it is. But that labbing experience is what gave me a leg up. OSCP, you have to understand at the end of the day, that's just a cert. Most of my penetration testing friends, they don't have that cert. You know that buddy of mine, the one that runs that Lorikeet security blog? The one that made Parrot CTFs? You'll see him in my Discord every now and then, Parrot Assassin. He doesn't have his OSCP. Hell, I don't think the guy has a damn cert. He's one of the best damn pen testers I know. Built his own attack surface management platform. It's crazy how much ham plus home lab does even for me, and I'm more of the software writing side of things. Oh yeah, ham radio helps you understand radio, like Wi-Fi and everything so much. Thank you, but I'm also 32 and I just started off in cyber like a year ago, so you can understand where I'm coming from. I can just take everything in stride. If you're in 32, even more of a reason for you to just understand the work-life balance. Look, if you were in your 20s, I could actually entertain the idea more so of you, saying, hey, I just want to focus on school right now. But you're in your 30s, dude. You got life. For all you know, God forbid this happens. You could step out on the street tomorrow and get hit by a bus. It's dark, but it's true. Live your life like you have no regrets. Do you not use your ISP router? No, I don't use an ISP router. I use a modem and I put my own router. I'm using that cert as a benchmark to work on my pen testing. Here's the thing. OSCP just is basically, if I recall, just more enumeration and stuff like that. I wouldn't really use that as the benchmark for your pen testing. You can use that as a validation for the things you've learned. But there's a lot of other things you can do out there. That's true, but I want to start a family and have kids, and money is an obstacle. Yeah, well, money will come. Money will come, and let's put it this way. You can't have a family just by yourself. I mean, technically you can, but you need even more money to do that. And when you have two people to put money in the pot, it's a little bit easier. So get over that obstacle with money. So don't sweat the small stuff. All right, let's move on to the next thing.
Offline knowledge server for as little as 300.
Ah. Okay, so this guy over here. Okay, so we've got this little short video.
You can build an offline knowledge server for as little as $300 in about 15 minutes.
Okay, this project over here. You're gonna laugh, Vampire, if you're here. But, it's Project Nomad, right? Field station. Look what I have starred. We were talking about this at work, actually. I was talking about this exact project at work, and I was going to talk about it sometime and set that up.
Let me show you how. Step 1, pick your hardware. Something like this mini PC is going to be perfect. Step 2, install Ubuntu. Step 3, run one command. Step 4, open a browser. And step 5, pick your content. And that's it. You've now got Wikipedia, maps of the world, local AI, educational courses, almost all of the world's information, and it's all offline. No internet required after setup. This is Project Nomad. If you want to learn more, check out the link in my bio.
Yep, I was planning on setting that up eventually. Needed to hear this for some time now. Job market is demotivating. Oh yeah, it's definitely demotivating. Well, I'm glad that I can be motivating. I can be the kick in your pants instead of the spit in your face. I don't know what analogy that was, but I'm sticking with it. The most prohibitive portion of a home lab is the NAS. AI bubble skyrocketed HDD prices. Anything with memory. I want to build a Zeek box. Do you know how much 32 gigabytes of RAM is, let alone 64? Hell, I want to upgrade my workstation here. You know how much 64 gigs of RAM and DDR5 is going to cost me here? I'd like to get 96, but I can't even afford that. Okay, next video. Alright. Gaming is a national threat. Gaming is a national security threat. US Gov is closing in.
Riot, Epic Games, and Supercell. What do those things all have in common? Well, they're all either owned or bankrolled by the biggest...
Any thoughts on that new Unify router? Or Portify, whatever? I haven't seen it.
And that is that the US government believes they may pose a national security risk thanks to the Tencent connection. And one solution being discussed right now is ripping Tencent out of the US games industry altogether. Should that happen, well, suffice it to say, and as you'll learn in this video, it'll be goddamn messy. Tencent is the biggest gaming company that doesn't produce consoles, and they operate like a true empire. Nearly $140 billion invested across the globe, and that doesn't even include full or near full ownership of Riot Games, Grinding Gear Games, Digital Extremes,
Jesus.
and Supercell. But even without control, they still have interests in Larian, Arrowhead, Remedy, Epic Games, From Software, Ubisoft, and many others. Think about that for a second. League of Legends, Fortnite, Path of Exile, Clash of Clans, gotta include the mobile gamers, and Helldivers too. Basically, if you've played a major game...
Not my Helldivers!
Tencent has probably got money in the company that made that game. That is how deep today's story goes. So, Tencent's money is the backbone of this industry, providing investment in return, hopefully, for some lovely profit. But whenever a company gets that big, their relationship to their investments does change a little bit. And we've already seen how that can go wrong. Take, as an example, Wildlight Entertainment. Tencent have so much invested that they're basically more interested in their wider balance sheet than they are keeping a game like Highguard alive. And the funny thing about Highguard is, well, it launched when it had to, not when they ideally would have liked to. So it's one of those things where, had that game have got a bit of a delay and a bit more time in the oven, maybe it wouldn't have had things like crippling performance issues on launch day. But
Jesus.
Losing Tencent support was a true death blow to the studio. Now, imagine that happening to every company that wants to operate in the American market because the US government told them to divest. That is the stakes of this story. Now, a thing you might know is just how many Germans watch this channel, and I've loved being in Germany the few times I've been there. I'm planning to go to Europa Park soon, and because of
Oh god, it's gonna be an ad for Babbel.
my German. Less to be a fluent speaker, and more just to be functional. Ordering food.
It's gonna be Babbel or one of those translation apps, right?
An absolute tourist, and that's where today's
Called it!
Babbel comes in.
Called it!
And they're an award-winning language app.
Okay. No hate to the creator. I was just like, yeah, okay.
And doing so in a way that can actually situation talking to a person and over starts 5%, and that's of national.com/cellular. Are Tencent's interests in gaming a matter of national security?
No, it's basically going to be Donald Trump trying to actually enrich his friends again, the same way as they did with TikTok. So if you look at the TikTok deal, it was very crony the way that it actually was done. So TikTok was actually, under the Biden law that was passed, not supposed to even still have the controls that they did under it. I don't know how it's going to play out post Donald Trump. And look, you guys can go back to all of my past content and see. I'm not a fan of Joe Biden. I'm not a fan of Trump. I'm not a fan of pretty much any politician. There are good things and bad things they've all done. But Donald Trump is definitely one of those ones who has gone out of his way to enrich his buddies and get them to be more rich. And Larry Ellison, I think that's the head of the Oracle, definitely walked away profiting off of this. And if you look at the enrichment that they've had in different media companies and such, it's just not a good thing. So I would not be surprised if they do go about doing this, they find a way to enrich more of his buddies that are loyal to him as part of the fallout of this. The good news being is that he's lost a lot of his political capital post this whole Iranian conflict thing. And midterms are coming up right now. So it's pretty much going to be a lame duck session.
Should they be required to divest from any company with a large enough American player base? That's the argument that's playing out at the highest levels of the White House, according to the FT's sources. The way they lay it out is that Tencent has investments in Riot, Epic, and other companies like Supercell who have got massive American player bases. And the question is whether data from those players...
Don't let Chief lie to you. He loved Obama. Look. I won't lie. I didn't, I'm not a big fan of Obama either. But I would like to have a beer with the guy. Like, he seems like one of those chill dudes that you could sit down and have a beer with. Did I care for a lot of his policies? Hell no. There were definitely a lot of F-ups he did. But show me a president, and I will show you ways they effed up, okay? I think, like, maybe the last president you can kind of look at that I'd probably, like, kind of give some nods to, but then still kind of say they effed up in other ways, but probably more nods of yes to than not, probably would be Calvin Coolidge. And most of y'all don't even know who the F that is. Do you consider yourself a cybersec operator? Do you also do offensive type of stuff? Well, I can be offensive. I'm getting more into the offensive side of things. I'm building a red team lab. Most of the offensive stuff that I have done in the past is more on the physical penetration side of things. And I didn't mean that as a pun, though I am into that side of things too, if you know what I mean.
China, where the Chinese government or military could use that data. Now, this would be things like your League of Legends match history, your Epic Games account, your Clash of Clans spending habits.
Obama had issues, but at least I felt safe to travel to the U.S. Nowadays it's a no-go. Oh, yeah. Donald Trump is definitely on the lower end of the scale. Like, I'd rank him below Bush. Both Bushes.
Quantities of data, then even with a bunch of metadata and a bunch of maybe secondary or tertiary things to the thing that you're actually looking at, well, who knows? Maybe something like League of Legends match history could be important. What if someone in intelligence wanted to establish, say, pattern of life? Well, if you knew when someone was doing Clash of Clans
Real president.
or playing League of Legends, that would certainly be useful to you. And one of the FT's sources suggested that Tencent had been trying to negotiate a way to ease these concerns since last summer. But now, there is a meeting in April between President Xi and President Trump. And this meeting is coming after the US president directed the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States to restrict Chinese investment in specific strategic sectors. They've already been looking at gaming for a long time, and this actually would not be the first games company to be caught up in these fears. So, of this story that's already happened gives us some proof, a bit of a playbook of how.
You know what? I can actually see a silver lining out of this. All right, hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. China's not allowed to have kernel-level anti-cheat games. We spin kernel-level anti-cheat as a national security risk. Come on. Come on. You gotta tell me. That could be a way, that could be an angle. And I'd be okay with it. I mean, come on, let's think about this. Let's think about this through. All right? We're talking about how Chinese-controlled video game studios is a risk. You now have kernel-level access to all these machines out there. All right? Do you see where I'm going with this? Do you see? Do I need to explain? Do I need to explain further? Okay. Okay. I'm just saying. Tencent could just pull a fast one with EAC, not gonna lie. What do you mean, like, fast one? Like what? Tencent just comes in and is like, you know what? All you American League of Legends people, all of you Fortnite people, you are now part of our botnet, and you are now DDoSing the Pentagon. Exfiltrate user data, then bricks the PC. Okay, yeah, you could do that. Totally. Look, I'm not trying to, like, be that guy, but I'm putting my cybersecurity cap on here. You have software that has kernel-level access. Theoretically, they could make the argument that the Chinese government could push in software that would allow them to control the machines of United States servicemen and women that are playing these games and potentially be able to listen in for sensitive information. It's kernel level. They could do whatever. You can't tell me it can't happen. They could DDoS all these different things. I'm not saying, you know, they're accessing Milnet from their personal computer with a cat card reader there, but I'm not saying they aren't. Just think about this. We've already opened the door. And all these schmucks out here are arguing, oh, well, Linux isn't great for gaming because of kernel-level anti-cheat, while people like us are going, kernel-level anti-cheat? Not working, that's a bonus! Evil laughter with mustache pinching when you say, now we own your PC and started a DOS. Never, ever trust any kernel-level anti-cheat. No, never do. I never would. The only thing I would maybe see a reasonable argument for having kernel-level access that an end user would install is your antivirus / endpoint detection and response. I think we can agree on that point. But your video game has no right to have kernel-level access. And I want you to think about, they now have the argument for this to be a national security risk, and they're not wrong. They're not wrong if we look at it through that lens. You can call me biased. You can call me whatever, but you can't tell me that I am wrong when I put these lenses on as a cybersecurity professional, that isn't a possible path that could happen. Is it likely to happen? No. But could it happen? Yes. Portmaster has near CLAC level access, but still doesn't boot until after user space is defined. Yeah. And the antivirus company doesn't sell their customers. Well, AVG and others kind of did, but that's a whole other thing we're not going to get into. But the point being, yeah, Tencent having kernel-level anti-cheat on video games could open the door for that actual argument of it being a national security risk, because now you have backdoors in millions of machines that have been voluntarily installed by tons of people, all in the name of stopping cheaters. And it doesn't even work that well for stopping cheaters. I believe that military personnel should never have to install anti-cheat at all. I agree with that either. I hope they banned kernel-level anti-cheat and BIOS-level cheat. Look. If that becomes a result of them going after this whole thing, I'm okay with it. Silver linings.
How this could play out. When the United States banned TikTok, it was the culmination of years of political maneuvering from both parties, and it was all supposedly driven by fears that US user data was being funneled out of the country to the Chinese government.
And a bunch of money lobbied by Meta.
Marvel Snap went offline in the US, and that's because developer Second Dinner's publisher, Newverse, was a ByteDance subsidiary, meaning that Marvel Snap got caught in the crossfire. Now, they quickly found a new publisher for the US to avoid that.
Who is that?
And now we're seeing a similar set of concerns playing out with Tencent, just that they have much more direct involvement in gaming in the USA. Because in the TikTok story, Marvel Snap was just a little bit of collateral damage. But with this story, the games themselves would actually be the main event.
You mean like Strava leaking a user's data from the active Navy vessel?
Trump administration. Their specific fear is this. I'm just going to give you the direct quote. Tencent's investments in Epic and Riot would provide the Chinese company with access to the data of millions of Americans. So that is the concern laid out in their...
And they have kernel-level anti-cheat. They have kernel-level anti-cheat to get access to millions of Americans directly on their machines, and then get those machines to give over any other data that they actually want. And yeah! You can say whatever you want about how I am very biased against kernel level anti-cheat, but I am biased because of my professional opinions as a cybersecurity professional. But if we're talking about, again, as I said earlier, from the scope and the lens of a cybersecurity professional, this is an argument they could make. If you have military servicemen and women with CLAC installed, they could then access and even use it to spy on people. We have voluntarily opened this door up, and I am totally okay with us stopping kernel level anti-cheat if this is the silver lining that comes out of it.
Own words. Committee members from the likes of Defense and the Treasury continued to debate this stuff during the Biden administration, and by the end of that, Tencent was placed on a list of companies with connections to the Chinese military, a move that Tencent called a mistake. They would say that, and maybe them calling it a mistake was a mistake, because it all seems to have lit a fire under the Committee for Foreign Investment in the United States last year.
Guarantee they will still allow CLAC because Meta wants your data. Yeah.
In America.
Does Meta have any kernel level anti-cheat stuff?
Could keep their investments provided they're committed to certain data protections. And this actually...
To be honest, what is stopping kernel level anti-cheat from access and turning on your webcam? Nothing. Technically and legally, nothing. They could legally put it in your terms and conditions, which none of you really read. Let's be honest here. You pretend to agree. You pretend to have read it and then agree to it anyway because you're not going to read that entire document. I mean, come on. They managed to fit the entire Gettysburg Address in Blizzard's World of Warcraft documentation that they didn't spot for years until somebody read that. Okay? There is nothing technically that could stop someone from turning on your webcam as part of a kernel level anti-cheat. And there's nothing legally if they put it in the terms and conditions, because they update the T's and C's all the time and you click accept without reading it and move on. Very few people actually read those things. So, yeah, this is an honest, legitimate concern if they're going to go down this route.
Actually is relevant to you in ways that are not properly discussed a lot of the time. You see, when TikTok was forced into a partnership with US companies, they committed to handling data under national laws. And in practice, it actually meant massive increases in data gathering that was managed by allies of the US government. So you could certainly argue there's also a domestic privacy concern as well. And while we're talking about privacy, well, Tencent has a 10% investment in Discord that's worth $500 million. Your data is already in more hands than you may think, and here's the uncomfortable part. Neither option really protects you. The data protection route gives the US government a window into these companies that could allow for types of...
Yep, anti-cheat can just in future enable webcam and maybe install malware. Exactly.
Mass domestic surveillance, some people...
In fact, there was an anti-cheat. I want to say it was a, Counter-Strike one or something like that. Somebody created a kernel level anti-cheat like system or that around one of the games or anything as a third-party one. They found a Bitcoin miner with it. They were mining Bitcoin on behalf of them.
People have stepped down from OpenAI over similar concerns, so I think for domestic US purposes, that's probably something you should be worried about, or at least think about if you're in the US. And even if they were to go the divestment route, that would still just change who holds...
Does Steam not use anti-cheat?
Steam
uses anti-cheat. They don't use kernel level anti-cheat. No, hold on. Steam themselves does not use anti-cheat. Valve has anti-cheat, the VAC system, I think it is. Valve anti-cheat. But they don't use kernel level anti-cheat. Now, games on Steam may use kernel level anti-cheat depending on the developer, but Valve now, as I recall, makes them disclose if they're using it. I remember that game, don't remember the name of the game or the anti-cheat. So, like, server side? Kind of, sort of. They've been more on the user space side of things.
It actually is, does not get a say. Just so we're clear on the rules here. But here's what actually gives this one more teeth. some within the Foreign Investment Committee believe that gaming companies hold more data than a social media app, and even hold data that is more relevant. These are, quote, financial information, personal details, and information in-game chat.
I've been saying this for years.
Tencent divest from any company that Tencent's currently got a stake in. But for companies under scrutiny, there is actually a far larger problem. I'll start with Riot Games. They're wholly owned by Tencent. They're based in the US, so that is about as clear-cut.
That was his own anti-cheat that checks your RAM. Okay.
A 28% stake in Epic Games. Significant, but not controlling. Meanwhile, there's Supercell.
I started to less trust kernel-level anti-cheat as I believe there is no need for kernel-level anti-cheat. Yep, there is none.
To be considered a threat, though. So, regardless of operating region and regardless of the magnitude of Tencent's shareholding, if enough of a company's players operate in the US, then it's a potential risk. Now, with that in mind, think about the Tencent global gaming empire that we talked about, and how many game companies could be challenged if they want to keep reaching their US audience. Even just saying those words doesn't feel like it communicates the sheer scale of what that would actually be, but that is the scale of what divestment would actually mean here. So, if we use ByteDance as an example, Tencent could be forced to sell their holdings to someone else. Now first, that means finding someone to buy them. All those companies that we've talked about may just have to find partners to, fill in the financial holes that just appeared in their balance sheets. That is, of course, a lot of companies that would need to find new partners, often at major scales. So let's actually put some numbers to this so it feels more tangible. According to Bloomberg, Tencent saw 43% growth in international games revenue last year. That's
Jesus.
$1 billion from a single quarter. Now imagine asking someone to buy out a company generating that kind of revenue. Then imagine dozens of studios all needing new investors at the same time in a market where barely anyone is making big acquisitions. It sounds a little bit like a fire sale to me. And what it would mean is that partnerships of necessity would be formed, rather than partnerships of choice. But hey, perhaps someone like the Saudi Public Investment Fund might take an interest in replacing Tencent. They certainly have the funding, and they would certainly not face issues with the US government in the same way. You may remember the sorts of things they've been up to, the likes of Electronic Arts.
Yep.
So perhaps this would be the US government clearing a path for more acceptable funding partners to step in. But it does not stop there. Publishers and developers who partnered with Tencent to reach the Chinese market, which is, by the way, the only major games market that is still in growth.
One question, could I run like a couple of VMs for a home lab alternative? Yeah.
Then there's the other side. What happens to the companies Tencent doesn't divest from?
HBX is a document in the Discord pinned in general that you can look at for a bunch of VMs.
Because Tencent have already been considering
It's like a 600 or so page PDF of VMs you can use.
Alongside layoffs at Funcom and many other studios. So we know they're willing to walk away from projects when they're a bad bet. How willing are they to take on the US government in years-long legal battles just to try to keep hold of some of these companies? It's all a bit spooky, isn't it? So you might be wondering, is there a chance any of this could actually happen? Well, sources suggest there is no clear indication of which way the White House will go on this issue. It could go either way, basically. If the data protection method...
Yeah, virtual machines are totally acceptable. I started with home virtual machines back in the day, too.
Companies and their users. That is not particularly good for the average person who just doesn't like surveillance. So that would be quite bad. But the other side of things, divestment. That could be devastating for the entire games industry, and devastating to the point where it would have systemic effects that would go way beyond just the Tencent impacted studios. And that's where it could matter more to you. If Tencent is forced out, then their games wouldn't just disappear. I mean, Riot still makes League, Grinding Gear still makes Path of Exile, but the money behind them does kind of disappear. The studios that rely on Tencent's investment for their next project, their next expansion, maybe just for continued operation, they're suddenly going to be scrambling. That means games would get cancelled, studios would close, and the ones that would survive would be bought up by whoever's willing to buy them. That wouldn't be whoever is the best to buy them. I mean, we've seen what happens when the industry contracts. People lose their jobs.